Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 41. Inside the Hydra base, Alan sat in the command room that belonged exclusively to Daniel Whitehall, the leader of Hydra. Beside Alan's were Rena and Mr. Hyde Calvin Zabo. Calvin Zabo was in a very strange state at this time. Looking at Alan's, who was wrapped in illusions, he wanted to eat his flesh, drink his blood, and cut Daniel Whitehall in front of him into pieces, but he tried to suppress this feeling for the sake of his daughter, so Calvin's muscles were trembling abnormally at this time. Alan's looked at Calvin Zabo with interest. This famous Mr. Hyde, if it was set according to the comics, could fight Thor and get away unscathed. Even if this was the MCU movie universe, Calvin, who had taken drugs, still had terrifying power. However, Alan's had no interest in this unstable serum. What really interested Alan's was that after this serum was perfected, a serum code named Patriot was formed. This serum created the later director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Patriot Jeffrey Mace. Mr. Calvin Zabo, is your wife Jiang still alive? She was put together randomly, but she was still alive. It seems that my actions back then were too gentle. Alan's mentioned what Whitehall had done intentionally or unintentionally in order to anger Calvin Zabo and personally test the power of Mr. Hyde. You are the one who deserves to be torn into pieces. After hearing what Alan said, Calvin Zabo clenched his fists, veins popping out, but he still had a trace of rationality in his heart. Oh, by the way, I remember that you and Jiang have a daughter, who seems to be a skeet agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. It seems necessary to capture your daughter. I am very curious whether she has the gene that can give people immortality. As soon as Alan's finished speaking, Calvin Zabo turned into an angry lion. Without saying a word, he took out the medicine bottle from his pocket, drank the liquid in the bottle in one gulp, and his whole body was filled with bursts of bone-popping sounds. Crack, crack. Calvin Zabo's body was bulging with veins, his muscles were swelling crazily, his face was distorted, his eyes were like those of a demon, and brown lines on his face extended to his forehead. Whitehall, I'm going to kill you. His feet made deep pits on the ground. You should know that the ground of the base where Alan's was located had been specially treated, but Calvin Zabo still stepped on pits, which was enough to show that Calvin Zabo, who had taken drugs, had turned into a humanoid monster. The furious Calvin Zabo grabbed the table made of special alloy with both hands, and lifted the table with a little force. You should know that because of the special material of this table, the corner of the table is connected to the ground of the entire base. If you want to lift this table, you need at least 1,000 pounds of force. Boom. With veins throbbing in his arms, Calvin Zabo swung the table and smashed it towards Alan's. The huge force made the wind whistle. Pung. Facing Calvin Zabo's attack, Alan's just raised his right hand, and the invisible telekinesis swept out instantly. Calvin Zabo and the table flew backwards at a faster speed and hit the wall behind him. The whole wall was covered with cracks. Hey, Mr. Hyde, you can't kill me with your current strength. Alan's was still sitting on the chair, watching Calvin Zabo falling from the wall leisurely, and waved his right hand to the left casually, and Calvin Zabo's body hit the wall on the left. Bang, bang, bang. Alan's waved his right hand repeatedly, and his ability to control objects with telekinesis was brought to its extreme. Calvin Zabo was like a ball, hitting the walls of the room, and finally fell heavily to the ground. Ahem, how is that possible? Whitehall, how could you have superpowers? As Jiang's husband, Calvin Zabo certainly knew the talents of the Inhumans, but what Calvin Zabo didn't expect was that Daniel Whitehall, whom he had been dreaming about and wanted to tear into pieces, actually had superpowers. Alan's opened his right hand, and Calvin Zabo's body instantly appeared in Alan's palm, pinching Calvin Zabo's neck. Alan's right hand also turned into a steel alloy material. The steel hand contained tremendous power, which pinched the reinforced Calvin Zabo's neck with a crackling sound. Be angry, hate, I need your hatred, continue to study your potion, you are now. You are still too weak, so weak that you are like an ant to me. Alan's eyes were cold and deep, his tone was full of contempt, and he used a little force with his right hand to throw Calvin Zabo to the ground. Ahem, you bastard, are you looking down on me? Calvin Zabo, who was thrown to the ground, spat out a mouthful of blood, his face extremely distorted. He originally thought that he could kill his enemy with his own hands, but now he found that the Daniel Whitehall in front of him had extremely terrifying power. Drive Monroe, come to my command room. Ignoring Calvin Zabo's incompetent rage, Alan's put his right hand on the built-in earphone beside his ear and gave an order. Not long after, a gray-haired old man came in and saluted Alan's. This old man was the top biological scientist in the Hydra base. He had studied the genes of the Inhumans with Whitehall and had his own unique understanding of the enhanced serum. This guy is in your hands. Cooperate with him in the research and development of the enhanced serum. After looking at Dr. Monroe, Alan smiled and looked down at Calvin Szabo, who was looking at him with resentment. Advanced laboratories, top laboratory assistants, if you want to kill me, then work hard to improve your serum. The cold voice rang in Calvin Szabo's ears, making Calvin Szabo clench his fists, his nails digging into his flesh. But just as the enemy said, he was still too weak now. Only by improving the serum formula could he gain powerful strength. Humph, sooner or later, I will tear you to pieces with my own hands, you bastard. An angry voice roared in the command room, but Calvin Szabo struggled to stand up and walked out of the command room without looking back. Very good, the fish has taken the bait. Reyna, you must be wondering now, why do you want to provoke Calvin Szabo? Obviously my strength is enough to ignore him. Looking at Reyna, who was hesitant to speak, Alan's waved his right hand, and the table lying on the side flew up and landed steadily in front of Alan's. I need our Mr. Hyde to perfect his serum formula. The current formula will turn people into bloodthirsty beasts. Alan's eyes flashed. A military laboratory could perfect Calvin Szabo's serum and create Patriot, a more advanced Hydra. Alan's believed that it would be better than the military. Lena, now I have a mission for you. Find the land of the afterlife and the Inhumans. Chapter 42. Beautiful little flower, I have a task for you. Find the afterlife, find the Inhumans. In the Hydra command room, Aarons removed the illusion on his body and revealed his true face. The Asian face made Lena fascinated, especially Aaron's eyes, which seemed to see through all the truths in the world. They were deep, vast, and fascinating. Mr. Allens, your strength is heart-stirring, and your wisdom is fascinating. Reyna's eyes were full of intoxication, and her whole body was wrapped around Alan's arm like a snake, and her delicate face like an angel made people salivate. However, according to Calvin, the afterlife of the Inhumans only accepts members of the Inhumans. Even Calvin cannot enter the afterlife. I am just an ordinary person and cannot get close to the Inhumans. Holding Alan's shoulders, Reyna's voice was indescribably gentle and beautiful. At the time, Reyna was desperately trying to attract Alan's attention. Swish. Alan's lowered his head, and his pair of pure white eyes scared Reyna and made her take 2 steps back. Foresee the future. Alan's whispered, and his soul entered the not-too-distant future. At the same time, in the command room, pieces of paper automatically flew into the air, and in front of each piece of paper was a drawing pen. Swish, swish, swish. Lena stared blankly at the air, the painting brush moving swish, and scenes appeared on the papers one by one. The paper closest to Lena showed that SHIELD Director Coulson led SHIELD agents to a church in Florida to check the situation. On another paper, 2 identical Melinda agents were fighting, and a bomb showed a danger signal. Lena gradually became addicted to the comics that gradually emerged in the air. In the comics, Lena saw Coulson leading SHIELD agents to fight Hydra while cracking the mind. Symbols appeared in the air, and in the center of the air, a huge temple appeared on the paper. Lena looked at the cartoon on it and knew that this was the base left by the Cree in Puerto Rico. Then Lena saw Sky and herself entering the temple. The obelisk was shining. Beside herself and Sky was the petrified SHIELD agent Trip. Sky awakened the Inhuman gene, and she turned into a monster covered with thorns. The beautiful afterlife of the Inhumans, the cartoon in the air was still taking shape quickly, but Lena was staring at herself covered with thorns in a daze. Swish, rustle. While Reyna was in a daze, the movement in the air stopped, and pieces of paper quickly gathered together to form a thick comic book, and at the same time the white light in Alan's eyes disappeared. Predicting the future again made Alan's vision more profound. Compared with the plot he knew in his mind, Alan's predicted future was more detailed and more meticulous. However, unfortunately, even if the future is predicted, the specific location of the Inhumans' territory in the afterlife cannot be known. It seems that Gordon must be found to know. Coming back to his senses, Alan's glanced at the thick comic book in his hand, a smile appeared on Alan's face, and he waved to Reyna. Reyna, who was still immersed in the comics, suddenly reacted and walked quickly to Alan's, her eyes shining, looking at Alan's without blinking. This is one of my superpowers. I can predict what will happen in the future. These comics are the future. After handing the comics to Reyna, Alan's briefly introduced them. I believe that with Reyna's intelligence, she has probably already guessed it. Is this really what is going to happen in the future? In this comic book, I saw myself turning into a monster covered with thorns. The disgust in Reina's eyes flashed by. In the comics, Reina saw her future, a monster covered with thorns. This was the most terrifying future for Reina. This was your original future trajectory, but now it has changed, hasn't it? Alan's gently rubbed Reina's hair, leaned over and sniffed, and a unique fragrance filled Alan's sense of smell. That's right, Mr. Allens, it is my destiny to follow you. Only then can I truly become an angel, not a monster. Reina's eyes showed a complex emotion of gratitude, excitement and fanaticism. She looked up at Allens. From this moment on, even if Allens asked Reina to sacrifice her life, Reina would agree without hesitation, because Alan's appearance changed Reina's miserable future. Take this comic book, you will be the prophet of the Inhumans. I need you to guide S.H.I.E.L.D. step by step into the predetermined destiny trajectory, so that Skye can awaken the Inhuman genes. Irons handed the comic book in his hand to Reina, and his tone became serious. This was related to his next plan. Skye is very important to me. Allens whispered softly in Reina's ear. Looking into Alan's eyes, Reina instantly realized how important Skye was to Allens. Mr. Allens, I will definitely complete your task. I don't know since when, Reina has upgraded the address to a respectful title, but even Reina didn't notice these small details. I will lend you the power of Hydra, Lena, don't let me down. Hydra is also divided into many forces, among which Whitehall and Gideon Malik are the most powerful. However, the two have parted ways long ago because of their different ideas. Whitehall is keen on pursuing the power of the obelisk, while Gideon Malik is a fanatical believer of the hive. However, whether it is Whitehall or Gideon Malik, Allens doesn't care. When Allens came to this era, the only thing he cared about was the ability of the Inhumans and the upcoming Ultron event. Therefore, after Allens took control of Whitehall's Hydra force, he directly handed over the command to Lena, even though Hydra had many high-tech weapons that were ahead of their time. Mr. Allens, I will never let you down. Holding the comic book tightly in her right hand, Reina's face flushed. She found that she had been deeply attracted to Allens. Very good, I look forward to you finding my afterlife. Reina. Aaron's eyes flashed with a strange light. He never took S.H.I.E.L.D. seriously. Making Reina a prophet was his next plan. Chapter 43. Puerto Rico, this is the final location that S.H.I.E.L.D. has found. Deep underground in Puerto Rico, there is a Kree experimental base that was buried thousands of years ago. Above this experimental base, on the ground that was originally empty, a huge Quinjet appeared from nothing. The hatch of the Quinjet opened, and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents walked out under the leadership of Coulson. Behind Coulson, Simmons and Fitz pushed a strange instrument, which clearly showed the Kree experimental base under their feet. Finally found it, this is where the final answer will be revealed. Coulson's face was serious. The Kree blood in his body had tortured Coulson and almost made him crazy. Those strange symbols brought Coulson endless doubts. Now this is the place to reveal it. Mike, are you ready for the bomb? Coulson turned to look at Agent Mike. In Mike's hand was a box with ASSR. This is the abbreviation of the Strategic Science Defense Deployment Attack Response Division, the predecessor of S.H.I.E.L.D. Only 4 of the plastic bombs used by the Howling Commandos are enough to blow up the base below. Mike raised the box in his hand and opened it directly, revealing 4 bombs that looked like roaring lion heads. These were plastic bombs once developed by Howard Stark, and they were incredibly powerful. Beside Mike, Skye, Melinda May, Mockingbird Barbara Morse, and Lance Hunter were also on high alert. Hulua. Just when Coulson had just found the entrance to the Kree experimental base, a fighter plane roared in the sky and quickly landed opposite Coulson and others. Shit, the Hydra people are still around, get ready to fight back. Coulson's face became serious, and he pulled out a pistol from his waist. Skye and others behind him also took out guns. Coulson, Skye, we meet again. The door of the Hydra fighter jet opened, and the first person to come out of the fighter jet was Grant Ward, a spy agent trained by John Garrett who had infiltrated Coulson's team. Beside Grant Ward was a smiling Reina. It is indeed you two, Reina and Ward. Skye's eyes were filled with extreme anger. What happened in the past 10 days was enough to make Skye angry at Reina, and for Grant Ward, Skye turned love into hatred. Not only Skye, but everyone in Coulson's team glared at Reina. In fact, these people were tortured by Reina in the past 10 days. With the future comics provided by Allens, Reina controlled the Hydra organization and could be said to be invincible when facing S.H.I.E.L.D. Every time, she could see through the actions of Coulson's team and make arrangements one step ahead. Because of Reyna's ability to predict the future, Coulson over the past 10 days, Coulson's team has been running around like a lost dog. Some SHIELD agents have paid a heavy price in the repeated attacks of Hydra. So far, although Coulson's team has not lost any members, it is not far from losing members, because Coulson and others know that this will be the moment of the final battle. However, what puzzles Coulson's team is that since following errands, Lena has become a different person. Every time, she seems to be a prophet and knows her own deployment and personnel allocation in advance, which makes Coulson's team panic and confused. Prophet, do you really know everything? Grant Ward also had this doubt and panic. At this time, Grant Ward glanced at Lena with a hidden look and asked a question seemingly casually. Speaking of which, Grant Ward was able to escape from the custody of SHIELD thanks to Lena. She was able to see into the future. Lena was even more familiar with SHIELD's Airbus base than Coulson's team, so rescuing Grant Ward was a piece of cake. This was also the reason why Grant Ward joined Hydra after being rescued and did not dare to act rashly. After all, there was a person who could see through everything by his side, and even all his plans were clearly presented to this person. This was really too frightening. What do you think, Lone Ranger Grant Ward? I know exactly what you promised Sky. A playful smile appeared on Reyna's face. She had seen through the comics about Grant Ward's future. This feeling finally made Reyna feel different. Don't worry, as long as you follow my plan and lead Sky into the Kree base, you can leave. Reyna's eyes turned cold. This was the most critical moment of Mr. Aaron's plan, and there must not be any mistakes. After more than 10 days of planning, Reyna finally led Coulson's team to Puerto Rico. Yes, it was Reyna who led them, using Hydra's relentless pressure to lead Coulson's team step by step into the predetermined track of fate. In more than 10 days, Reyna finally led everyone into the future predicted by the comics. And the feeling of insight into everything these days made Reyna get the code name of Prophet in Hydra, won the favor of almost most of the Hydra executives, and also let Reyna completely control Whitehall's power. Everything is going according to plan, open fire. Lena's eyes flashed, and she gave the order directly. The Hydra soldiers, led by Grant Ward, quickly advanced forward. Bang, bang, bang. The gunfight was about to break out. Facing the large number of Hydra soldiers, Coulson's team was beaten so badly that they couldn't even raise their heads. Even Mike didn't have time to place the bombs. Damn, the enemy's firepower is too strong, everyone get into the Quinjet. Coulson's face was solemn, and he shot and killed 2 Hydra soldiers while commanding. Following Coulson's order, Barbara the Mockingbird and Hunter, Mike, Simmons, Fitz and others all moved to the Quinjet. Only Sky, May and Trip did not move. The latter 2 were temporarily unable to escape due to the enemy's firepower suppression, while Sky wanted to find out her own life experience. Coulson, I can't just give up the answer in front of me. Looking at Coulson, Sky jumped directly into the passage, which surprised Coulson and the other 2. Trip, who was closest to Sky, didn't have time to think about it, and followed Sky into the ventilation duct. Very good, everything is on track. Next, take the obelisk and wait quietly for the Inhumans to come. Lena smiled and ordered a Hydra soldier to carry the box containing the obelisk into the underground base. Lena, who already knew that she would become a monster in the future, did not want to get close to the underground base, and did not even want to witness Sky's transformation with her own eyes. Chapter 44. In the Hydra base, Allens looked at what happened in Puerto Rico calmly, tapping the table with his right hand, and the rhythmic sound echoed in the command room. When he saw Sky jump into the underground base, Allens' eyes showed a hint of playfulness. Allens knew that Sky, who entered the base, would complete the transformation of Quake. However, Allens was not in a hurry now, because Allens still needed Sky, who had transformed into Quake, to become his bait, and the Inhumans would definitely take the bait. Moreover, although Allens had been staying in the Hydra base for more than 10 days, Allens had already ordered Reyna to do what he should do. Now there are rumors that Reyna has awakened the genes of the Inhumans and gained the ability to predict the future. I believe the Inhumans will be interested in this news. Just as Allens expected, after Sky entered the base, she transformed into Quake because of the obelisk that Reyna ordered the Hydra soldiers to send into the base. Trip and the Hydra soldier were infected by the Terrigen mist and turned into stone, shattering all over the ground. After seeing the death of his companion Trip with his own eyes, Sky's heart was filled with regret and fear. The inhuman genes that had not yet been fully controlled suddenly erupted, shockwaves surged, and the entire base collapsed instantly. The unknown area, which is called the Land of Afterlife, is the base camp of the Inhumans. Since World War II, all the Inhumans born here have been taken here. The scenery here is magnificent and looks like a paradise. In an antique room, an aimless man showed a hint of excitement on his face and stood up directly from his seat. Very good, a new member of the tribe has been born. The blind man is called Gordon. He awakened the Inhuman gene more than 20 years ago, but he also lost his eyes. Gordon has been using his ability to sense the newly born Inhumans over the years. The door was pushed open, and a woman in casual clothes and a somewhat old housekeeper walked in. The woman looked only in her 20s, but both the old housekeeper and Gordon showed respect in their eyes. Jiang, you're here. Gordon's eyes were filled with respect. Although the woman in front of him looked as young as his own daughter, only the Inhumans in the afterlife knew that this woman was the current leader of the Inhumans who had survived World War II. Jiang. Gordon, we have another member of our tribe. Jiang's face has lines similar to cracks. Although they are very shallow, they still make people feel a little unnatural. The Asian face looks very beautiful, but the eyes are full of deterrence. That's right, Jiang, I can feel that a new member of the tribe has been born. This is a very magical power. Gordon's face was a little excited, and he looked at Jiang aimlessly, his tone was excited. Very good, the alien will go through a period of confusion, we need to bring him back to the tribe. Jiang nodded. Jiang still attaches great importance to the new tribe members. Gordon nodded to Jiang and wanted to activate his teleportation ability, but Jiang stopped him. According to my intelligence, Calvin Szabo's adopted daughter, Lena, has awakened the Inhuman genes. You can test her first. If she really awakens the Inhuman ability, take her to the afterlife. Jiang gave Gordon a serious instruction and turned away. Gordon was the only one left in the room. Lena. Found it. Gordon whispered to himself, and his whole body instantly turned into a blue light curtain and disappeared in the room. Inside the Hydra base, a blue circular light curtain flashed and Gordon's figure appeared in the Hydra base. However, as soon as Gordon appeared, more than a dozen Hydra soldiers quickly surrounded him. You are finally here. Reina walked out from behind the soldier, her eyes flashing with excitement and enthusiasm, her face carrying a hint of fanaticism, and her tone was as if she had seen an old friend. Are you Reina? You seem to know that I will appear here. Facing the encirclement of Hydra soldiers, Gordon's face remained calm. Gordon, who has the ability to teleport through the quantum bridge, does not take these people seriously at all. I saw the future, it is a beautiful place, it is where all of us gather, I have been waiting for you, waiting for my destiny. I saw many of the same kind, such as the handsome Lincoln who could discharge electricity, Alita who could split into two, and Leo who could fly. Lena's words brought a smile to Gordon's face. Through Lena's words, Gordon knew that maybe Lena really awakened the Inhuman gene. After all, even the top leaders of Hydra didn't know the afterlife of the Inhumans, let alone Lena in front of him. Do you want to see our homeland? The homeland of our Inhuman race. Gordon stretched out his right hand, a smile appeared on his face, and his whole body flashed with blue light. He reappeared, having escaped from the encirclement of the Hydra soldiers. Of course, this is my fate. Lena's eyes flickered, and even Gordon, who had no eyes, could not help but be attracted by the light. Lena walked in front of Gordon, grabbed Gordon's right hand, and nodded at Gordon. Shua. A blue halo appeared in front of the two men, and then the light disappeared. The two men had already disappeared into the Hydra base, and the Hydra soldiers who had surrounded Gordon were also distorted into illusions and disappeared. Very good, I finally found the place of afterlife. The illusion disappeared, and Alan's figure appeared. At this time, Alan showed a cold smile on his face. In Alan's right hand, a red dot was clearly displayed on a disc. Stand by. Alan's put his right hand to his ear and transmitted the order to the entire Hydra base through the built-in earphone. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Following Alan's order, 3 Quinjet fighters that had been on standby for a long time flew out of the base. Alan's walked out of the base, and one of the Quinjet fighters stopped in front of Alan's. Let's go, Inhumans, they will all fall into my hands. Alan's eyes flashed with a deep light, and the ticking sound in his mind sounded again. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 45, Shua. In the afterlife, on a beautiful mountaintop, a blue light screen flashed by, and the deformed and aimless Gordon appeared here with Lena. Welcome to the afterlife, beautiful Miss Reyna. Gordon made a gentlemanly gesture, smiled, and said from the bottom of his heart. That's right, this will be your afterlife. Reyna's eyes were obsessed with the beautiful scenery in the distance, the setting sun, the gorgeous flowers, the yellow grass under her feet, the breeze blowing, giving people a sense of tranquility and remoteness. Being here, Reyna felt the long-lost peace in her heart. Miss Reyna's words just now. Gordon frowned slightly, but before he could figure out what Reyna meant by that, the people living in the land of the afterlife had already gathered around him. Most of the people here were just ordinary people waiting to be transformed, and only a small number of them could pass the test of the Terrigen mist and awaken the inhuman genes. Behind this group of people was Jiang, the leader of the land of the afterlife, and her housekeeper Chen Wali. Jiang attached great importance to the naturally awakened inhumans. Lena, let me introduce you. When Gordon saw Jiang, a smile appeared on his face, and he immediately walked towards Jiang, wanting to introduce Lena. Jiang, the leader of the afterlife, has the ability to absorb the life force of others. Lincoln Campbell, who can control electricity. Alyssa has the ability to clone herself, and each clone has its own consciousness. Leo Sean, able to fly. Lena listed all the superpowers of the Inhumans one by one, which made everyone, including Jiang, change their expressions. Others were surprised and excited, but Jiang had murderous intent in her eyes. Cool, sweetheart, is this your ability? You can easily see through our abilities. Lincoln Campbell's eyes flashed with surprise, and he looked at Rena with admiration. Lincoln's words were agreed by most people. The only people who could be brought back by Gordon were Inhumans, and Rena's performance was enough to amaze everyone. Whether it is a strange person or not is still unknown. Jiang's eyes flashed with a cold light, and the cracks on her face seemed to have changed slightly. Jiang said in a cold tone. Jiang is right. Lena needs further testing. As Jiang's housekeeper, Chen Wali certainly supports Jiang. Having followed Jiang for almost a lifetime, Chen knows Jiang's abilities very well and also knows what Jiang's ultimate goal is. Jiang's words successfully caused the Inhumans in the afterlife to whisper. Their eyes flickered when they looked at Lena. It was obvious that Jiang, the leader, had a very high prestige. Sure enough, he is ambitious. Mr. Allen's predictions are 100% correct. A buzzing sound rang in Rena's ears, which made Rena's eyes appear a little excited. She looked directly at Jiang, but what she said shocked everyone. Mr. Allen's. Hey, sweetheart, you don't seem to be alone. Lincoln frowned slightly, obviously unable to understand what Lena said, but Gordon and Jiang's faces changed drastically. Boom boom. Before Gordon and Jiang could say anything, 3 Quinjet fighters in the sky of the afterlife turned from virtual to real, and were completely exposed to the sight of the Inhumans. Reyna, you bitch. Jiang saw the Quinjet in the sky and knew that Reyna was a spy. This made Jiang furious. She cursed and walked towards Reyna, wanting to use her ability to suck Reyna's life force dry. Fire. In the center of the Quinjet, Alan's eyes were cold and ruthless. He looked at the picture displayed on the screen in front of him and gave the order to fire without mercy. Whoosh, whoosh. Following Alan's order, the missile launchers at both ends of the Quinjet on the left and right sides opened, and 4 missiles were instantly fired. Boom, boom, boom. The missiles crashed into the ground below, and buildings were blown to pieces. Dozens of descendants living in the afterlife were blown away. In an instant, the peaceful and tranquil afterlife was plunged into the smoke of war. Damn it, Gordon, lead your people away from here. Jiang's face was livid, and the dust raised by the explosion around her made Jiang look dusty, but as the leader of the Inhumans, the first thing she thought of was to protect the Inhumans. I won't let you little lambs escape. Alan showed a cold smile on his face, and with a wave of his right hand, the bottom compartment of the Quinjet opened, and 4 metal plates instantly smashed into the 4 directions of east, west, south, and north, forming a square space. These metal plates flashed with a surprising frequency. Swish. Gordon grabbed the body of an Inhuman and directly activated the quantum bridge to teleport, but to Gordon's horror, he only teleported 3 meters. What the hell is this thing? Why does it limit my superpowers? Gordon's face changed drastically. This was the first time that his teleportation ability disappeared, which made Gordon feel a sense of fear that he hadn't felt for a long time. Action, action. Hydra soldiers slid down from the Quinjet fighters one by one, forming a tactical formation and quickly surrounded Jiang and the others. Bang, bang, bang. Bombs took away the lives of the panicked Inhumans one after another, which made Jiang's face pale and her eyes turned cold. Lincoln. Alyssa. Jiang's voice contained endless anger. After hearing Jiang's order, Lincoln first released his superpowers. Electricity surged between his hands, and an exciting E1/2 the electric current was stimulated from the palms of his hands, and more than a dozen Hydra soldiers along the way were hit by the electric current, their bodies were charred, and they fell to the ground. Swish, swish, swish. Alyssa's body twisted, and 5 clones suddenly emerged from Alyssa's body and rushed towards the Hydra soldiers. Microwave heating. Beside Jiang, Lolita Teralin opened her hands and released a microwave instantly, hitting the 2 Hydra soldiers head-on. The soldiers were like being in a microwave, and their entire bodies began to melt rapidly. Very good, a good superpower. Aaron's just watched coldly as the Inhumans used their full powers to slaughter the Hydra soldiers, his eyes flashing with excitement. Shit, Jiang, there are too many enemies, we can't hold on any longer. Gordon's body teleported to Jiang's side with difficulty, and helped Jiang dodge a burst of bullets. He said to Jiang with a serious face. They won't lose. These damn humans, it's time to let them try the power of the Inhumans. Jiang's face was gloomy. She took out 10 shining Terrigen crystals from her pocket and handed them to Gordon. When Gordon saw that they were Terrigen crystals, he teleported away with the crystals. Crack, 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 crack. Where the Hydra soldiers gathered, Terrigen crystals were smashed one by one, and a large-scale Terrigen mist swept out, covering the entire battlefield. Chapter 46. Crack, crack, crack. In the afterlife, among the group of Hydra soldiers who were advancing steadily, the Terrigen crystals shattered one by one, and the surprised Terrigen mist swept out. FK, what the hell is this? Damn monster, my body is petrified. Shit, hi claws. There were screams of fear among the Hydra soldiers, but then, with the Terrigen mist as the center, the Hydra soldiers who inhaled the Terrigen mist were petrified one by one. Crack, crack. Hydra soldiers were petrified one by one, and the guns in their hands fell to the ground helplessly. The attack that originally had an advantage was instantly disintegrated by the Terrigen mist. Humph, stupid humans. Seeing that none of the Inhumans' genes had been transformed, Jiang showed a hint of sarcasm on her face. After being chopped into pieces by Whitehall, Jiang had already abandoned her human identity. Now she is the leader of the Inhumans. Where's that bitch Reyna? Looking around, Jiang frowned slightly. There was no trace of Reyna at the scene, which made Jiang feel a little bad. Pong. While Jiang and others were looking for Reyna, a figure in the Quinjet jumped down from a height of hundreds of meters and fell heavily to the ground. Who is it? Jiang and the others' faces changed drastically. It turned out that a person fell from the sky. You know, the Quinjet is hundreds of meters above the ground. It is incredible that someone could jump from hundreds of meters in the air. Hey, everyone from the Inhumans, we finally meet. After landing on the ground, Alan's body was not damaged at all under the power of telekinesis. The slight recoil force also dissipated into nothingness under Alan's body that exceeded the limits of human beings. Alan twisted his neck and looked at the Inhumans in front of him. Who are you? Why are you attacking the Inhumans? Jiang's face was solemn, because Alan's no longer had the illusion, so Jiang didn't know Alan's at all. As the lamb to be sacrificed, I will tell you my name. My name is Alan's, a man who is about to slaughter the entire Inhuman race. Alan's looked at Jiang coldly and ruthlessly, as if he was looking at prey, which made all the Inhumans shudder. Arrogant guy, do you know what you are facing? We are the Inhumans with extraordinary talents. The hot-tempered Lolita Teralin's eyes flashed with anger, and she opened her hands, wanting to release her superpower microwave, but to Teralin's surprise, her superpower was like a stone sinking into the sea, and was not stimulated at all. WTF. How is that possible? My talent. Why is my talent ineffective? Lolita Teralin's face was horrified. Without her superpowers, she was not even as good as an ordinary person. Wait, my ability is gone too. Mine too. Leo Shan tried to use his superpowers to fly, but his body didn't move at all. Lincoln also tried to activate his superpowers, but not only did he not get any electricity, but even sparks didn't appear. It's you, what did you do to our Inhumans? Gordon's face was cold, and his eyeless and deformed face looked in the direction of Alan's. The insight of quantum entanglement made Gordon know that his and others' abilities had not disappeared, but were blocked. Alan's ignored Gordon's questioning, raised his right hand, and burst out with telekinesis, first covering Loli Terraline. Bang! Terraline's body flew uncontrollably towards Alan's, and stopped in the air 1 meter in front of Alan's. At this moment, Terraline was no longer angry, but only terrified. "Hey, what are you going to do?" Jiang's face turned pale. She found that she couldn't see through the young man Alan's at all, but Alan's ability to block superpowers was simply shocking to Jiang. Swish, swish, swish. Alan stretched out his left index finger and slashed horizontally. Amid Talline's horrified screams, Alan's face was cold as he slashed open Talline's skull, revealing the cerebral cortex. "Let me find it, where is your ability?" Terraline's body fell to the ground. Alan squatted down, and moved his left index finger along the wrinkles and grooves of Terraline's cerebral cortex. Seeing through the laws of everything, Alan's easily found the superpower circuit of Terraline's cerebral cortex. Is this ability called microwave? It can heat objects like a microwave oven. Alan's raised his right hand, and a ball of microwaves condensed in his palm. The temperature around him began to rise, and the air in front of him began to twist and evaporate. Not bad. Alan's raised his eyes, passed by Talon's body, and walked towards Jiang and others. Monster. Monster. Alan's actions frightened the Inhumans, and Lincoln and Alyssa were even more frightened. After all, they had seen people being killed, but Alan's was the only one who killed people by cutting off their brains. The abilities of the Inhumans are really interesting. Alan's raised his right hand, and the flying Leo Sean floated up. Alan's raised his left index finger, and Sean's head was cut open bit by bit. The ability to fly. Just by taking a glance, Alan's understood the supernatural brain circuits above Sean's cerebral cortex. This time, he gained the ability to float and fly. Pung. Throwing Sean aside, Alan's walked towards Alyssa, which made Alyssa's scalp tingle, and she screamed in horror. "You devil, don't come over here." Alyssa's eyes revealed fear, and her whole body kept retreating. Obviously, Alyssa was frightened by Alan's method. But everything was in vain. Alyssa couldn't escape Alan's palm at all. In an instant, Alyssa's skull was cut open, and she fell to the ground with horror in her eyes. Shish, shish, shish. Alan stood up from Alyssa's side, his whole body flashed, and 5 Alan's clones appeared. The 5 clones formed a horn with each other and nodded to the original body at the same time. The clones have superpowers. A playful smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth. The 5 clones all have their own independent consciousness, but they are controlled by the original body. In simple terms, this is the Marvel version of the multiple shadow clone technique. Alan's eyes turned to Gordon, Jiang and Lincoln. These 3 people are considered to be very powerful Inhumans. Whether it is Gordon's quantum bridge teleportation, Jiang's vitality absorption, or Lincoln's control of electricity, they are all very powerful. Chapter 47. In the sky outside the afterlife, a red, white and blue metal armor was sweeping with flames at its feet, and its speed directly broke through the speed of sound, which was even faster than the speed of the Quinjet. This armor resembles the Mark 7 Iron Man Tony Stark's suit. The streamlined metal structure and the arc reactor on the chest give it a sense of technology. The only flaw is that the red, white and blue color scheme makes this suit look a bit retro. Under the arc reactor is a 5-pointed star pattern. In Siberia, a freezing cold place, Tony Stark, wearing a gold-red Iron Mark 7 suit, is in a Stark Group technology laboratory, discussing how to encircle Baron Strucker and his Hydra base. Suddenly, Jarvis' alarm sounded in the suit. "Sir, UFOs have been spotted over New Jersey." Jarvis's alarm stopped Tony Stark from thinking, and he opened the steel mask on his face and took a breath of fresh air. "Hey, Jarvis, I don't want to care about UFOs in New Jersey now, I just want to find the damn Hydra Stark's Hydra base." Tony Stark didn't appreciate Jarvis's tip. In this world, there are many UFOs flying around in the sky, especially the disintegrated shield, which regards the sky as its own territory. "Sir, it's Baron Strucker, one of the leaders of Hydra." The artificial intelligence system Jarvis corrected Tony's slip of the tongue, which made Tony curl his lips and walk directly to a cupboard and take out a bottle of red wine. "After work, you still need to relax. Hey, Jarvis, put all your computing power into finding Baron Strucker. UFOs in New Jersey cannot arouse any interest in the busy Avengers." Tony Stark didn't care. For Tony, the current task is to find the leader of Hydra, Stark, and the Mind Scepter that was lost in the New York War. "Yes, A1/4 sir." Jarvis cancelled the alarm and stopped paying attention to the UFO in New Jersey. Instead, Jarvis used all his computing power to quickly calculate the location of the Hydra base in Siberia. When the Avengers were preparing to remove Baron Strucker's last Hydra base, in New Jersey, a red, white and blue steel suit whizzed by. Inside the steel suit, the old Captain America, wearing the Captain America costume with the stars and stripes, looked more serious than ever. "Drive Zora, report the situation in the future world." Roger's eyes flashed, and data streams quickly appeared on the metal mask. The data streams converged to reveal a wretched, short and fat man, who was glaring at Rogers. "Damn it, Rogers, why are there two Captain Americas in this space and time? Why do you want to control my core intelligence board? You are a bastard who came from the future and destroyed the order of space and time." Dr. Zora, the artificial intelligence conscious life form inside the Iron Man suit, started to curse Rogers after seeing him. However, Rogers was completely indifferent to Dr. Zora's abuse. When Hydra's Insight plan was completely exposed, Dr. Zora, who stored his consciousness in the consciousness storage device, was also exposed. After Captain America of this era destroyed Dr. Zora's register, the elderly Captain America found Dr. Zora's register and used Hydra's technology to transfer Dr. Zora's consciousness to the smart chip of the current Iron Man suit, making it an artificial intelligence life form. In addition, in order to prevent Dr. Zora from secretly rebelling, Rogers used many means and added many restrictive instructions in Dr. Zora's consciousness. "Arnim Zola, if you continue to abuse me, the restriction command in your mind will take effect, and you will feel the electric shock of consciousness." Rogers smiled playfully and threatened Dr. Zola. "Shit, Rogers, you have changed. You are now unscrupulous." Looking at Rogers threatening him without any psychological burden, Dr. Zola felt terrified. Compared with the Insight plan he had made, this Captain America from the future was the real omniscient one, and he was even more frightening to the enemy. Hi Claw." Rogers' face showed a serious look, and he righteously said the slogan of, "Long live Hydra," which made Dr. Zola stunned, and the consciousness in the register was a little short-circuited. "Damn Rogers, the afterlife of the Inhumans has been found." Dr. Zora's angry voice rang out in the iron armor, which made Rogers' eyes reveal a serious light. He no longer paid attention to the anger in Dr. Zora's tone. The iron armor instantly broke through the sound barrier, and a cyclone appeared in the air. Boom! A steel armor fell from the sky above the afterlife. Its super-fast speed caused a huge cloud of dust to rise from the ground. In the dust, the steel armor's visor flashed red, and all the surrounding conditions were scanned and entered into Dr. Zora's register. "Are we still too late?" In front of Rogers, data flowed one by one, and pictures were displayed on the visor. In the center of the afterlife, only Allens was standing, and beside Allens, Gordon, Jiang, and Lincoln were lying. "Zora." Rogers raised his right hand and pointed his palm at Allen's back. The artificial intelligence life Zora immediately controlled the steel armor to start running. Boom! A red beam of light was emitted from the palm of the iron armor, and the whole air erupted with a sonic boom. The beam of light quickly bombarded Allen's body. Boom! Hit by the palm cannon, Allen's body exploded, and his whole body turned into a bloody rain. How could it be so easy? The visor was opened, and a puzzled look appeared on Roger's old face. According to the information sent in 2023, in the next period of time, Allen's will become an existence that destroys the world. How could he be killed so easily? Warning, warning, target appears, target appears. Dr. Zora's gloating voice interrupted Roger's thoughts. When he came to his senses, Rogers found 4 Allens in front of him. Iron Man armor. Captain Rogers, you actually got an Iron Man armor. It's really interesting. Standing in the center, Allens looked at the red, white and blue retro armor, his brows slightly wrinkled, but a deep angle appeared at the corner of his mouth. This is considered Iron Man Rogers. Chapter 48. WTF, 4 Allens. Rogers didn't know much about the Inhumans. When he saw the 4 Rogers, his face changed drastically and his eyes became more serious than ever. After all, even after experiencing the Infinity War in the Endgame, as the leader of the Avengers, Rogers had never paid attention to the Inhumans. After all, for the enemies faced by the Avengers, the Inhumans were just a very small superpower group, so small that they could not attract the attention of the Avengers. Therefore, even if Rogers used Dr. Zola to find the Inhumans' lair, he was still unfamiliar with the Inhumans' abilities. Drive Zora, activate the particle cannon. However, Rogers did not want to waste time, and directly ordered Dr. Zora to turn on the particle cannon on the shoulder of the armor he named Iron Heart. A ball of dazzling white light rose on the shoulders of the Ironheart armor. Number 1, go and give some care to our elderly. Alan's eyes were deep. The number 1 clone standing on Alan's left came out with a cold face, and the palms of his hands were flashing with lightning. Boom, boom. The white particle cannon and the electric current as thick as the arm of Alan's number 1 collided with each other, and a huge air explosion sounded, and a shock wave spread in the air. Damn it, warning, warning, the target can control the current, preliminary judgment, the voltage is over 6,000 volts. Zora, who has become an artificial intelligence life, cursed directly after seeing the power of the number 1 clone, and his voice sounded extremely shocked. Bang, bang, bang. The number 1 clone didn't know that the intelligent core of the Ironheart was Zora, the crazy scientist of Hydra. Compared with Rogers, Aarons didn't want to waste any time with Rogers. A ball of electric current was thrown out by the number 1 clone. Kala, Kala. The metal on the shoulder of the Ironheart suit opened, and small missiles were quickly loaded and released. Boom, boom, boom. The missile was hit by the electric current of clone number 1 and exploded in midair. The heat wave swept through and blew away the Ironheart suit more than 10 meters away. Fuck you. Rogers couldn't help but swear. A dazzling electric light appeared in the metal visor in front of him. Rogers only had time to raise his right arm before the electric current hit Rogers' iron suit. Warning, warning, the arc reactor is overloaded, the arc reactor is overloaded, and the weapon system is damaged by 10%. Dr. Zola is no longer gloating over the misfortune. You know, he is now confined to the control center of this iron suit. Activate the energy cannon. Rogers was not panicked. This level of current was still a little weaker than Thor's lightning. The Ironheart armor could still withstand it. Boom. A red energy beam thicker than before was emitted from Ironheart's palm and attacked Alan's. No. 2. Alan's eyes were cold, and the number 2 clone beside him suddenly bent down, and his whole body quickly turned into a rock form, absorbing the transformed superpowers and activating. Bang! A dull explosion sounded, and the rock body of the number 2 clone did not move at all. The red energy cannon hit his body, leaving only a white mark. WTF, how is this possible? The structure of the body, including the genetic structure, has changed. This is simply impossible. Dr. Zora, a top human genetics scientist, stared at the corner of the mask with his eyes wide open. His short, fat and wretched body trembled uncontrollably. The scanning device of the mask allowed Dr. Zora to discover the internal structure of the body of Alan's second clone. At this time, the internal structure had completely turned into rock. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Rogers didn't have time to pay attention to Dr. Zola's shouting. A metal plate rose above his shoulder, and the most advanced Jericho missiles were released one by one. The most intelligent and powerful Jericho missiles in Stark Industries dragged the tail flame and split into small missiles in the air, like flowers scattered by fairies, bombing the direction where Alan's was. No. 3. Alan's eyes were still cold and deep, and the number 3 clone behind him immediately raised his hands, palms facing up, and a terrifying cold current instantly swept across the sky. Crack, crack. The small missiles falling from the sky were quickly frozen into ice. In the blink of an eye, they turned into ice and fell around Alan's. It seems that Tony Stark's Iron Man suit is just like this. Shaking his head slightly, Alan's looked a little disappointed, his whole body flashed with blue light, and the quantum bridge teleportation was released by Alan's. Swish. Alan's appeared in front of the Iron Man suit, opened his right hand, grabbed the Ironheart suit's shoulder, and flew into the air. Boom. Alan's took off directly into the air, and appeared hundreds of meters in the sky with a heart of steel. The flying ability was a waste of the inhuman Sean. Sean could only float for tens of meters, but in the hands of Alan's, just a simple float could reach hundreds of meters. Crack. After reaching a height of several hundred meters, Alan's loosened his right hand, and electricity surged in his palm. His whole body was flashing with lightning, and a current with a diameter of 1 meter instantly hit the Ironheart battle suit. Boom boom. The entire Iron Man suit instantly crashed into the ground from hundreds of meters in the air. The strong current caused the arc reactor of the Ironheart suit to flicker, and the metal components on the suit began to overload, and the entire Iron Man suit crackled. Facing the current on his body, Rogers directly controlled his iron right hand and took the vibranium shield that popped out of the suit in his hand. All the energy in his body rushed to the vibranium shield. Boom boom. A beam of energy flashing with electric light was rebounded into the sky by the vibranium shield, and the whole air was filled with the sound of an explosion. Captain Rogers, I finally let you use the vibranium shield. Facing the energy reflected by the vibranium shield, Alan showed excitement on his face. From the beginning, he kept using electric current to overload the energy of the iron suit. Alan's had been waiting for Rogers to use the vibranium shield. Now he finally got the chance. Quantum bridge teleportation. Alan's figure instantly disappeared from the spot, and when he reappeared, he was already within 1 meter of Ironheart. He stretched out his right hand and pressed it directly on the vibranium shield. Absorb. Alan's eyes flashed with excitement. The ability of the absorber krill was activated, and Alan's body structure instantly turned into vibranium. Vibranium, finally got it. Alan's clenched his right fist, and his right hand, which had turned into vibranium, instantly smashed on the iron armor. Obviously, he didn't use much strength, but the iron armor rolled dozens of meters like a gourd. Vibranium, also known as sound-absorbing steel, is very hard. Its special molecular structure makes it almost indestructible. Because its molecules are relatively static, it almost does not conduct heat and kinetic energy. This feature allows it to absorb heat, energy and kinetic energy. It can absorb 100% of the energy and bounce it back in a special way. Swish, swish. Alan's body turned into silver-white metal, looking just like a metal man, with sharp features. If I had to describe it, it would be like Vision's painting style, looking very cool and domineering. Chapter 49. Vibranium. Damn, this guy's body has turned into vibranium. Inside the Ironheart armor, Dr. Zora, an artificial intelligence life form, was terrified. If it weren't for the restriction command in his consciousness, Dr. Zora even planned to transmit his consciousness and escape from here. F***K was all this Alan's plan. From the beginning, Alan's intended to absorb my vibranium shield. Roger's eyes flashed with surprise, and he looked down at the center. There was a tiny gap where Alan's touched. It was very small, even smaller than an ant, but Rogers knew that his shield was absorbed by Alan's after all. But just one time was enough to turn Alan's body structure into a vibranium body. After all, the superpowers of the absorbing man krill were also very buggy. As long as he came into contact with and absorbed a substance, his body would automatically transform into the absorbed substance. Come on, Grandpa Rogers, let me see how far your Ironheart suit can go. He waved at Rogers. At this time, Alan's was tall, with 2 pectoral muscles and 6 abdominal muscles. The muscles on his limbs all showed the explosive power of Alan's super soldier. His silver-white skin reflected the sunlight, making Alan's look indescribably majestic and domineering. Shit, Dr. Zola, release all the missiles in the arsenal. Faced with such a situation, Rogers couldn't help but swear and gave the order directly. Crack, crack, crack. The weapon system on the steel armor was fully activated, and laser missiles, bullets and grenades were all fired at Alan's. Boom boom. A small mushroom cloud rose above the ground. The temperature generated by the explosion melted the ground beneath their feet into crystal particles. In the center of the explosion, the silver-white Alan's was safe and sound. The explosion and fire could not harm Alan's at all. The properties of vibranium make me indestructible. Alan strode out of the flame explosion, his eyes flashing with excitement, and squatted slightly. His whole body instantly appeared in front of Rogers. The vibranium body made Alan's almost immune to air resistance. Facing Alan's who suddenly appeared, Rogers' face was solemn, and he blocked it with his right-hand shield. Bang! A pleasant collision sounded. Made of the same material as vibranium, Alan's fist hit the vibranium shield. A terrifying kinetic energy burst out from the impact point, and the surrounding rubble was instantly blown away. Alan's raised his left hand and hit the chin of the metal mask of the Iron Man with a hook. The muscle power plus the characteristics of vibranium made the Iron Man suit fly backwards instantly and hit an abandoned house, with smoke and dust everywhere. Boom. From the smoke and dust, a red energy beam penetrated the smoke and dust and hit Alan's chest directly. However, facing the strong characteristics of vibranium, it could not cause any damage to Alan's at all. Da, da, da. Alan's approached Rogers step by step with the energy beam. The previous attack directly penetrated Rogers' metal mask, revealing Rogers' solemn and old face inside. Boy Alan's, you have grown up again. His eyes were still as firm as a rock. The most admirable thing about Rogers was his iron will. He never flinched even when facing Thanos. I also want to thank you, Captain Rogers from the future. If I hadn't met you, I would have followed the routine and waited for major events to happen. Even if I could survive these major events, I'm afraid my own strength would not be able to grow so quickly. Alan's face was cold. As Alan said, since he knew that there was an old Rogers from the future in this era, Alan's abandoned his inner hesitation and kindness. In order to quickly improve his strength, he even went to the opposite side of the Avengers. Why? I have never figured out why you did this. Rogers stood up from the ruins. The retro steel armor on his body lost its metal visor and looked more like Captain America's uniform. At this time, Rogers' old eyes were deep, with a hint of doubt in them. Interesting question. Your time travel is based on quantum theory, but quantum theory has a particularly conscious phenomenon, which is Schrott paragraph Mark Dinger's cat. Alan's walked towards Rogers step by step, his tone full of playfulness and coldness. Rogers certainly knew what Schrott paragraph Mark Dinger's cat was. Simply put, it is to put a cat into a closed opaque box with a mechanism inside. Put a radioactive atom in it. If the atom decays, the mechanism will open and poisonous food will be placed in the box. Without opening the box, no one knows whether the cat is alive or dead. This state is called quantum superposition. Rogers once talked about Schrott paragraph Mark Dinger's cat through Tony Stark in the final battle. Before you traveled through time, the past was the past, but after you traveled through time, just like Schrott paragraph Mark Dinger's cat, all states are superimposed. The past may still be the past, or it may decay and become another past. That is, time diversion. Then, here comes the interesting thing, Captain Rogers, will the time we are in now divert time and move to a different future universe? Aaron's words made Rogers, who was just a soldier, frown and try to digest what Alan said. The probability of 1 in 10 million is too small, so small that if I can't achieve invincibility, I'm afraid I will never be able to find the right timeline, and I will be lost. I one half in the endless diversion of time, until the end of the world. Aaron's looked deeply at Rogers, the Captain America who came back from the future to return the Infinity Stones but was left in the old time and space. His words successfully made Rogers' pupils shrink. Just as Aaron said, in order to ensure that 1 in 10 million can be found in the future, Rogers has been cautious since World War II, for fear of causing the diversion of time. Even if the war in the future is over, Rogers is still cautious, because he is also looking for the main line of time. He and Aaron's are both cats trapped in a box, looking for the way to the future. However, one is cautious and protects various major events in the past from happening as scheduled, and the other is to attribute the great power to himself, and wants to use an invincible posture to strongly descend on the main line of time. Chapter 50. The land of the afterlife, once a beautiful paradise, was now shrouded in smoke, with corpses lying all over the ground, and the surrounding Chinese retro buildings turned into ruins. The land of the afterlife no longer existed. In the land of the afterlife, an old man in steel armor was fighting with a young man with silver-white skin. These two people were Ironheart Rogers and Vibranium Body Aaron's. Bang, bang. Rogers' two kicks were easily blocked by Alan's with his arms. The ground began to shake with the tens of tons of force of the steel armor, but it could not shake Alan's vibranium body. Captain Rogers, are you really old and can only use these external forces to fight? Alan's raised his right hand and directly grabbed the left shoulder of the iron suit. With a slight force on his right hand, the entire mechanical arm was twisted like a twist. Crack, crack. Pieces of metal components fell off the left shoulder of the Ironheart suit, and the entire mechanical arm was twisted into a knot, even revealing the internal circuit components. Pong. Rogers controlled his right hand, raised the vibranium shield, and slammed it directly into Alan's chest. A shock wave erupted, and Alan's body slightly stepped back. Come again. Alan's kicked the vibranium shield with a whip kick. Although his power was absorbed by the vibranium, the energy wave still made the iron armor retreat 10 meters. Bang, bang, bang. Alan's rushed forward and punched Rogers' iron suit with both fists. Rogers could only use his vibranium shield to barely block it. Boom. Alan's grabbed the vibranium shield with his right hand, exerted force on his waist and abdomen, and threw the iron suit over his shoulder with great force, smashing it directly from in front of him into the ground behind him. Warning, warning, the Iron Man suit is damaged by 60%. Damn Rogers, quickly lift the restriction order. I want to leave. I want to leave this monster. Dr. Zola's voice sounded in the Iron Man suit, his tone full of panic and timidity. He reported the damage to the Ironheart while cursing. The entire Ironheart armor was submerged in the ground. All the metal components on the body were crackling. The superalloy metal was in tatters. In some places, Roger's muscles and skin were even exposed, which looked horrible. Alan's walked in front of Roger's, looking at Roger's old face. Alan's raised his right foot and stepped directly on Roger's chest. Alan stepped on Roger's directly, leaned over slightly, looked at Roger's with cold and ruthless eyes, raised his right hand, and his telekinesis became as sharp as a knife, piercing Roger's forehead. Shit. Seeing Alan's move, Rogers, who had seen it once before, showed a fearful look on his face. Feeling the stinging pain on his forehead, Roger's old face showed a painful look. Heimdall. At the critical moment, Rogers suddenly shouted, and when he heard the name, Alan's knew something was wrong. Boom. In the sky, a colorful rainbow bridge fell straight down, and a terrifying force exploded, directly pushing Alan's 2 meters away. The rainbow bridge enveloped Rogers' Asgard god realm. The terrifying power erupted in an instant, and then disappeared in an instant. Looking at the circular pattern on the ground, Ernst showed a cold smile on his face. Heimdall is the guardian of Asgard god realm. He has the eye of insight that can see through the 9 kingdoms. He also controls the strongest weapon of Asgard god realm, the Rainbow Bridge. He is indeed the adopted son of God. Although Roger's power is not worth mentioning, he can take advantage of it. In recent years, Rogers seems to be hiding his identity, but it is only for the Earth. Asgard's Holy Father Odin has long known Rogers' future. Alan's eyes flashed. Although he still did not kill Rogers this time, he achieved his goal. Moreover, Asgard's Lord Odin is a father-level strongman. Now Alan's is still not enough to face Odin. Boom, boom, boom. While Alan's was thinking, a huge fighter in the sky lifted its cloak, and missiles quickly attacked Alan's. This fighter was an Airbus fighter of S.H.I.E.L.D., a small aerospace aircraft carrier, which was equipped with various high-tech weapon systems, intercontinental missiles, Jericho missiles, split bombs, SM-62 Tiger Shark series, Tomahawk series missiles, etc. In the Airbus fighter, Coulson's team looked at the ground covered by the explosion with serious eyes, and everyone's eyes were filled with fear and hope. Shish, shish, shish. In the firelight formed by the small mushroom cloud, Alan's walked out. His silver-white vibranium body absorbed all the energy of the explosion. Alan's eyes were cold, and his body soared into the air and flew directly to the opposite side of the Airbus fighter of S.H.I.E.L.D. Boom! A ball of dazzling electricity was released from Alan's hands, hitting the left-wing engine of the Airbus fighter, and the entire engine exploded. Boom boom! The huge Airbus fighter plane fell from the sky and hit the ground straight on. The entire fuselage of the Airbus fighter plane broke into 2 halves. Cough, cough, cough. Coulson's team climbed out of the crashed fighter plane in a panic, and Agent Hunter's right hand was pierced by a sharp spike, which directly injured him. This is Coulson. We need support. I repeat, we need support. Coulson's face was solemn. The burning fighter plane behind him made Coulson's face covered with sweat. He looked at Alan's in the sky with fear. Coulson put his right hand to his ear and started calling for support. Ahem, Coulson, are you okay? Sky, who had completed the transformation, supported Agent Melinda and walked to Coulson's side, looking at Coulson with a worried tone. Damn, what kind of monster are we fighting? Behind Sky, Barbara the Mockingbird and Alfonso Mac Mackenzie, supporting Hunter, also came over. Hunter looked painful, but he still cursed. Coulson, what happened over there? Why does my detector show that our Airbus base was shot down? In a backup base, the scientific duo Fitz and Simmons turned on the communicator with panic in their eyes. Chapter 51. New Jersey, an unknown geographical area, the former paradise has disappeared, and a huge Airbus small aircraft carrier is falling straight down. A dozen meters in front of the Airbus fighter, Coulson's team looked at Alan's falling from the air with an unpleasant look on their faces. Although Rogers ran away, you sent the beautiful Miss Daisy. Isn't that interesting? If Grandpa Rogers, the adopted son of God, knew that his escape would kill a beautiful girl, his expression would be very interesting. Alan's eyes were more excited than ever before. This was a joy of completing his goal. This joy made Alan's feel happy in his heart, and even the anger he had when Rogers ran away disappeared. Coulson, are you going to retreat? Melinda May's face was as cold as usual, but her eyes were full of fear. She asked Coulson. I also want to retreat, but I'm afraid the enemy won't allow me to do so. Shit, this guy Alan's is more like a monster. This guy should be dealt with by the Avengers. Coulson smiled bitterly. When he first met Alan's, Coulson thought Alan's was just a gifted guy, but just a little stronger. But now that he saw Alan's again, Coulson realized that he was wrong. He was so wrong. How could he be so strong? He was so strong that it was outrageous. Daisy, your ability is unique. Just by seeing you, the symphony of destiny has already sounded in my mind. Alan's body floated in the air, looking down at the cautious Agent Skate. The excitement on his face was beyond words. The shockwave girl Daisy can control the power of shockwaves. Everything has shockwaves, and Daisy's ability is extremely terrifying. A full-strength attack at her peak can even tear the continent apart. In Alan's words, this is the Marvel version of the shockwave fruit, and this is also Alan's goal. As long as he controls Daisy's shockwave power, Alan's will be able to deal with the Avengers. Whoosh! Alan's opened his right hand, activated his telekinesis, and Sky's body instantly flew into the air and flew towards Alan's. F***K, Sky. Coulson's face changed drastically. He threw down the pistol in his hand, and took out 4 fission bombs from Hydra from his pocket. Shua, shua, shua. Facing the 4 rapidly approaching split bombs, Alan's face was cold, and 4 clones quickly emerged from Alan's body, also suspended in the air. Frozen. Electro-optic. Microwave heating. Vibranium body. The 4 clones, each showing their best, quickly released 4 superpowers: freezing, electric current, microwave heating, absorption and conversion. The 4 split bombs could not get close to Alan's body at all. Damn it, you devil, let me go quickly. Sky had already been fixed in the air by Alan's. Looking at Alan's cold face, Sky's heart was filled with fear. Because of the emotion, the air around him began to vibrate. Bang, bang, bang. A terrifying shock wave was released from Sky's body, the earth began to tremble, and the air formed a shock wave, shaking all the surrounding debris and stones away. Very good power. Under the protection of telekinesis, Alan's was completely unharmed, and even the 4 clones around Alan's were not affected at all. However, what surprised Alan's was that the telekinesis that imprisoned Sky also began to tremble, which made Alan's admire sincerely. However, you who have just awakened, your abilities cannot escape from my grasp. Although Alan's could block Sky's superpowers, he did not want to do so. Alan's wanted to see Sky's shockwave ability. Now it seems that although it is powerful, it is still not good enough. Alan's telekinesis burst out, and Sky, who was shaking before, was imprisoned again. At the same time, Alan's raised his left hand, and his telekinesis turned into a knife. Drops of blood dripped from the corner of Sky's forehead. Sky. On the ground, the faces of Coulson's team were gloomy, with worries, indignation, helplessness and other complex emotions in their eyes. Coulson ran back to the broken Airbus fighter and pulled out a metal box from the wreckage of the Airbus fighter. Hey, little boy, let me show you the power of the destroyer. Quickly opening the box, Coulson pulled out a huge, strange-looking gun that looked more like a cannon. As Coulson pulled the trigger, a ball of red energy quickly gathered in the muzzle, and the high-energy reaction made the surrounding air vibrate. Boom! A dazzling beam of light was released, and the air became scorching hot. The destructive force made Alan's frown slightly. No. 3. Alan's eyes were cold, and the number 3 clone immediately flew in front of the beam, its silver-white vibranium skin shining, looking very cool. Boom! The red destructive energy beam hit the vibranium body, exploding with a bang, and a small mushroom cloud rolled back, but the number 3 clone at the center of the explosion was completely unharmed. The vibranium body gave the clone an invincible defense. Fuck, how is this possible? This is a super weapon made with the technology of the destroyer from Asgard, but it is totally useless. Coulson was shocked, and a panicked look appeared on his calm face. This is a weapon that can knock away the evil god Loki. Since it has no effect on errands. It seems that you have no power to stop me. Alan's lowered his head slightly, his eyes were full of amusement and pity, and his left index finger began to move horizontally. Sizzle, sizzle. Alan's left hand moved evenly, and Sky's forehead was immediately covered with blood. The huge pain made the shock waves around Sky more agitated, and the whole air began to roll visibly. Sky began to scream, and the surrounding air formed a shock wave, which bombarded Alan's like a tide, but in front of Alan's mental barrier, this shock wave was still not enough. No matter how Sky struggled, Alan still cut open Sky's brain, his eyes scanning Sky's cerebral cortex, and at the same time, a strange brain circuit was generated on the left side of Alan's cerebral cortex. I finally got the power of shockwaves. The ticking sound in Alan's mind sounded like a magnificent chapter. With the superpower of seeing through the laws of everything, Alan easily obtained Sky's shockwave power. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 52. In the Asgard domain, on the Rainbow Bridge, Rogers, wearing the Iron Heart armor, appeared in a panic. In the center of the Rainbow Bridge, stood a strong black man wearing armor and a horned helmet. The man's eyes seemed to contain the stars of the universe. He was Heimdall, the patron saint of Asgard, who could see through any place in the 9 realms and hear anyone's voice. Clang! He pulled out the guardian sword of the Rainbow Bridge control center with both hands. His eyes were deep and the divine power surged in his body, making Heimdall look majestic and solemn. Captain Steve Rogers, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Heimdall took a look at Rogers' old face. After the end of World War II, Captain America Rogers came to Asgard and won the friendship of the god King Odin. Heimdall, long time no see. Rogers stood up from the Rainbow Bridge, his muscles bulging, the broken armor on his body shattered instantly. He bent down to pick up the vibranium shield and Dr. Zora's consciousness register, and Rogers finally showed a smile on his face. Has anything happened that will affect the future? Heimdall frowned slightly. Every time he met Rogers from the future, Heimdall would think of the future. Rogers once told Heimdall about the future, the tragic final battle. A kid named Alan's, for some reason, learned some things about the future, stole my quantum suit, and became a super criminal who disrupted the future time and space. After a brief explanation, Rogers took out a button from his pocket. This button looked like a nuclear explosion button, but it was more futuristic. Rays of light rose from the button. Save Quake, save the world. I can't stop Alan now. Doctor Strange should have seen this happen, so he sent the final control method from the future. Staring at the button in his hand seriously, Rogers turned his head and looked at Heimdall. Heimdall, use your eyes of insight to look at the Earth. Alan should have achieved his goal by now. With a hint of caution, Rogers expressed his request to Heimdall. As you wish, my friend. Heimdall put his right hand on Rogers' shoulder and directly opened the Eye of Insight. The scene of the Earth instantly entered Rogers' eyes. The scene rushed rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, a bird's-eye view of New Jersey, the land of the afterlife, appeared. That guy Alan's really succeeded. Looking at Sky lying on the ground and the chaotic shock waves that continued to appear around Alan's, Rogers looked even older. However, Rogers knew that now was the best time. According to the information sent by Doctor Strange in the future, after killing Sky, Alan's would relax his vigilance. This was the best opportunity to kill Alan's. In addition to the message of saving Quake Girl and saving the world, the message sent from 2023 also included another sentence, which was, the light of the mind will purify the world. In the future of 2023, Dr. Banner, the Hulk, used the data information left by Tony Stark to create this button named the Light of the Mind. This button has only one function, which is to trigger the Mind Scepter. Success or failure depends on this one move. Rogers' old face flashed with determination, and his right hand suddenly pressed the button in his hand. As Rogers pressed the button, in Siberia on Earth, in an uninhabited underground base, in the center of a high-tech laboratory, a scepter shining with yellow light suddenly burst into a dazzling wave. This is the Mind Scepter in Loki's hand that was seized in the Avengers, New York battle. The core of the Mind Scepter is the Mind Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones, which has infinite mental power. At this time, a terrifying yellow mental wave light rose from the Mind Scepter, completely ignoring this huge underground base, and rushed directly into the sky. The Hydra leader in the base, Baron Strucker, looked at the light released by the Mind Scepter in the surveillance, was surprised, and turned to look at the 2 Hydra scientists beside him. I need to know why the Mind Scepter is activated. Baron Strucker's eyes were full of ambition. In order to control the Mind Scepter, Baron Strucker did a lot of experiments, but without exception, he could not achieve the terrifying energy fluctuations like the current one, which was dazzling and brilliant, and made people excited and fanatical. Baron Stark, we are still looking for the cause, please be patient. An old man with a white beard and a bald head, his eyes flashing with fanaticism, his hands quickly operated the various buttons in front of him, and the data appeared on the big screen one by one. Damn it, how is it possible? According to the data, the psychic staff was activated by some kind of device. After checking the abnormal data, the bald old man cursed. If the psychic staff was activated spontaneously, it would be fine. If it was activated by someone using some kind of device, the nature of it would be different. Shit, which son of bitch did this? Hearing the words of the bald old man, Baron Strucker's face turned cold, and he cursed loudly, while activating the highest level of defense measures in the base. Also in Siberia, the Avengers, Tony Stark's laboratory, a high-energy reaction set off an alarm in the laboratory, and at the same time, the voice of the artificial intelligence Jarvis sounded in Tony Stark's ears. "Sir, high-energy reaction detected." Jarvis' voice caught Tony Stark's attention. He clicked a watch on his wrist with his left hand, and a three-dimensional image suddenly appeared in front of everyone. In the image, a marked red dot appeared, and above the red dot was this position. Captain America Rogers and others looked at Tony Stark in confusion. Finally found Baron Stark's rat's nest. This kind of high-energy reaction can only have one situation, that is the power of the Mind Scepter, and the Mind Scepter was hidden by Baron Stark in the Hydra base. Boom. The game between Baron Strucker and the Avengers could not stop the power of the Mind Scepter. The mind light inspired by the scepter quickly spread to New Jersey. In the afterlife, Allens was trying out his newfound shockwave power without realizing it. He punched out with his right hand, and circles of cracks seemed to appear in the entire space. The visual effect was exactly the same as when Whitebeard released the power of the Tremor fruit. Chapter 53. See all. 0.401s scan. 0.042 Over the afterlife, Raina stood in the Quinjet, looking at Allens, the great man who changed her fate, with fanatical eyes. She turned her head again and looked at the Hydra soldiers around her. Raina suddenly felt that she was out of tune with these people. Raina, who always boasted that she was different, could no longer tolerate the environment where everyone around her was just ordinary people after seeing Allens' strength. "Bring the serum here." Glancing coldly at a small Hydra leader, Raina's tone was full of command. Hi Claw." The Hydra leader saluted Lena and looked at her with fanatic eyes. The prophet in the Hydra organization reached out and handed a silver-white metal box to Lena. Shish. Raina opened the box, and a gust of cold air came out. Inside were 5 serums emitting a faint blue light. The blue light reflected on Raina's face, and she finally smiled. "Is this the serum that Mr. Allens developed specifically for me? It's so beautiful." Lena looked at the serum in front of her with a dazed look, picked up the syringe in the box, took out a bottle of blue serum, and carefully put it into the syringe's slot. "I will undergo a transformation, and I will become an angel." Raina's eyes sparkled with excitement, her voice was melodious and full of confidence, and she directly pierced the syringe into her arm. As the serum was injected into Raina's body rapidly transformed, her whole body became slimmer, her skin became whiter, her face became more perfect, and at the same time Raina found that her bone density was increasing rapidly. Her whole body was like popping beans, and when the sound stopped, Raina truly felt the changes in herself, the first of which was the sense of strength. Raina felt as if she could smash the cabin wall of the Quinjet in front of her with one punch. Her body became lighter, and what made Raina even happier was that although she did not grow a pair of wings, she undoubtedly became more beautiful and more charming. "Oh, Prophet, you are like an angel now." The Hydra leader was dazed at this time, obviously captured by Raina's beauty, and praised her from the bottom of his heart. "Mr. Allens, it is indeed my destiny." Without even glancing at the Hydra leader, Raina walked to the bottom of the cabin of the Quinjet and ordered someone to open the cabin door. A sharp wind blew on Raina's body, but she did not feel the slightest bit of coldness. "This feeling is really great." Spreading her arms, Raina jumped down like a flying lark. The wind around her was whistling, but the smile on Raina's face was getting brighter and brighter. Pong! A dull voice sounded behind Allens, and Raina stood firmly on the ground, her feet sinking into the ground, but she was injured when she fell from a high altitude. "The serum from Mr. Hyde has been Hydra-ized to eliminate side effects, and can provide super strength and a body of steel to those who have been injected with the serum." In short, Raina found another patriot, Jeffrey Mace. Boom boom. In front of Lena, Allens punched the air, and the power of the shock wave exploded instantly. The invisible shock wave instantly shook the ground and created cracks. The entire ground rolled like a dragon, and Coulson and others on the ground were all knocked away. Sky. After being knocked away, Coulson quickly got up and stumbled to the dead Sky, his face full of pain. "Damn Fitz, why hasn't there been any support yet, shit." Coulson pressed his right hand to his ear with difficulty, his anger surging, but his tone was heavy. "Senior, we have locked onto you." Inside the shield base, Fitz's face was also filled with sadness. He controlled the three-dimensional projection with both hands, constantly adjusting the direction. Boom boom. A huge roar sounded in the sky. Everyone, including Alan's, looked up at the sky. They saw a dazzling yellow light in the sky like a second sun. The terrifying mental pressure was layered, and the minds of all intelligent creatures within hundreds of kilometers began to shake. Fitz, is this your support? Is this the new weapon you and Simmons developed? Coulson's eyes were dull, and he asked subconsciously. Senior. Don't be ridiculous, the energy reaction in the sky has reached its peak, it is impossible for the technology on Earth to achieve this. Fitz and Simmons said this almost in unison. Just by seeing the yellow light appearing in the projection, Fitz and Simmons seemed to have endless mental illusions in front of them. Damn, this is the light of the mind gem. Alan stood on the ground, his face changed greatly. The yellow light that could cause vibrations in his mind from hundreds of meters away was definitely emitted by the mind gem on the mind scepter. The mind gem, known as one of the 6 infinity gems, has the power to dominate the mind and can enter the mind world of all creatures, distorting and rewriting the mind consciousness at will. The mind light it releases looks dazzling, but it is an invisible substance, which can invade anyone's mind world. Boom, boom, boom. Facing the spiritual light above his head, Alan's face was gloomy. He clenched his fists and punched out one after another. The space in front of Alan's was like a mirror that shattered on one side. Waves of terrifying shock waves swept up and hit the spiritual light head-on. Swish, swish, swish. However, just as Alan's expected, the yellow mind light was not affected at all, and because of Alan's shock wave, the mind light attacked Alan's at a faster speed. Damn it, Rogers, you actually tricked me. This time it was Alan's turn to swear. The attack of the light of the mind made Alan somewhat helpless. After all, the only superpower Alan's got was telekinesis, which could barely be considered a spiritual ability. Boom. Alan's telekinesis burst out instantly, and the huge telekinesis caused the ground under his feet to collapse instantly. The telekinesis formed an invisible barrier, blocking the light of the soul. Pop. However, facing the spiritual light released by the mind gem, the telekinesis was directly penetrated, and the terrifying spiritual fluctuations pressed down layer by layer, and layers of spiritual illusions appeared in front of Alan's. Boom. Alan's was completely stunned. The mental illusions in his mind kept appearing one after another, making Alan's consciousness completely fall into chaos. The spiritual light in the sky instantly projected down. Circles of mental waves rolled out, and Coulson and others fell straight to the ground and lost consciousness. The dead sky, whose consciousness had originally fallen into darkness, was instantly pulled out by the spiritual light. Sky, who was brain dead, came back to life. Chapter 54. See all. Top pound download time, 0.033s scan time, 0.055s. Boom. In the sky, yellow spiritual light fell down, and layers of spiritual fluctuations were like waves, stirring up a terrifying force. With Alan's as the center, all intelligent creatures lost their spiritual consciousness. Ahem, Mr. Alan's, I have only just now understood my fate. It turns out that I am your guardian angel. In the dazzling yellow light, Raina laughed bitterly, but her eyes did not show any regret or resentment, but only enthusiasm and happiness. Long before Alan's could not resist the light of the soul, Raina used her extraordinary speed to appear in front of Alan's and block the light of the soul that should have hit Alan's. The light of the soul rushed into the depths of Raina's soul, and the yellow light enveloped Raina, making Raina as holy as an angel. In the depths of Raina's soul, endless illusions appeared, and her consciousness was dragged into a terrifying spiritual world. But facing the terrifying soul in front of Harry 1/2 I 1/2 I 1/2 in the world, Raina did not show any fear on her face, and she still had a happy smile on her face. Mr. Alan's, do I look like an angel now? I have known since I was a child that I will eventually become more beautiful than an angel. Raina's voice woke Alan's up, and his consciousness broke through the illusion in his mind. Alan saw the world again. When he saw Raina in front of him, the touch in Alan's eyes flashed away. Beautiful little flower, you are more beautiful than an angel now. He gently held Raina in his arms, and looked at Raina who was bathed in the light of the soul with complicated eyes. To be honest, before, Alan's just regarded Raina as a tool to achieve his goals, but what Alan's didn't expect was that Raina actually blocked the light of the soul for him. Mr. Alan's, you are a great man. In you, I see my destiny. Following you until the end of my life is my destiny. In the world of spiritual illusions, Raina looked at the terrifying monster that was rushing towards her with its fangs and claws bared. She was not afraid because she felt Alan's embrace. In her lifetime, she finally found her own destiny. Alan looked down at the beautiful angel in his arms and kissed Raina gently on the forehead. This little flower who gave everything for him brought a touch of warmth to Alan's lonely heart. Alan just looked into Raina's eyes quietly. After the next second, the light of Raina's soul disappeared, replaced by an extremely strange gaze. "Hey, bastard, let me go quickly, do you know what you are doing? You are harassing a patriot." The righteous words and the tone full of justice made Alan's frown. The light of the mind finally played a role and transformed Raina, who was bent on pursuing uniqueness, into a patriot. "Forget it, my beautiful little flower has disappeared, and the patriot Raina is now my enemy." Alan's face, which was originally a little touched, turned cold again. Raina blocked the light of his soul for him, which made Alan's remember the beautiful little flower in his heart, the Raina who pursued uniqueness. Alan's has defined the patriot Raina with distorted consciousness as a human being. Delete the memory. Alan's right hand directly pressed on the forehead, and the Haitian's supernatural power was activated, deleting all the memories of Raina before she became a patriot. Because of the deleted memories, Raina's eyes became confused. Although Alan's could delete all of Raina's memories, the reversal of the light of the mind was irreversible. Now in this world, there is only patriot Raina. Boom. Alan's has never been a sentimental person. After deleting the memories of patriot Raina, Alan's soared into the sky. There was a sonic boom in the sky, and Alan's disappeared into the sky. There are people here who need help. When Alan's disappeared, the confused Raina recovered, turned around in a daze, and then saw the unconscious Coulson and others, as well as Sky, whose brain was cut off but whose eyes were open. Alan's didn't know about Raina's rescue of Coulson's team, and even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Now Alan's just wanted to vent the anger in his heart, the anger that almost rewrote his mind consciousness. The old Captain Rogers is in the Asgard, and Alan's has no way to reach him now, but the young Captain America and the Avengers are still on Earth. Alan's, who is already furious, doesn't mind playing with the Avengers. If he is really hit by the light of the mind, maybe Alan's will become the Patriot Alan's. This kind of rewriting of consciousness is absolutely not allowed by Alan's. Boom. In the sky, Alan's sped past. The speed has exceeded Mach 7. The speed of 7 times the speed of sound makes Alan's surpass the latest fighter jets in the United States. At this time in Siberia, in front of Baron Stark's base, all the Avengers gathered: Captain America Rogers, Iron Man Tony Stark, Hawkeye Barton, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff, Thor, Hulk, were being bombarded by the Hydra soldiers, and they flew rapidly. One by one, the Hydra soldiers flew directly into the air. Various armored vehicles and tanks were like toys in front of the Avengers, and were easily destroyed, especially the Hulk. Every attack would destroy a heavy armored tank. Boom, boom, boom. Amid the rumbling sound, the members of the Avengers killed all the Hydra soldiers that were attacking. The Hulk even smashed a tank with his fists to vent his anger. Sit, those damned Avengers. The entire Hydra base is divided into 2 structures. The upper structure is a building, and the lower structure is located 100 meters underground. The upper building is Hydra's war fortress, and only the lower level is Hydra's experimental base. Baron Strucker is in the underground base at this time. His face is gloomy, and his eyes contain extreme anger. Activate our secret weapon. Teach these Avengers a lesson. Strucker's voice was cold and his face was grim as he gave the order. Following Strucker's order, in the ground part of the Hydra building, a man and a woman stood hand in hand, looking at the outside world with hatred. In the sky, flying around, the showy Iron Man Tony Stark. Obey and you will be rewarded. Now is the time to be loyal to Hydra. A Hydra agent walked up to the 2 siblings, a boy and a girl, with a cold and commanding tone. It's time for revenge. Chapter 55. See all. Top pound download time. 0.040s scan time. 0.038s. Boom, boom, boom. Above the Siberian Hydra base, Tony Stark, wearing Iron Man armor, flew to the Hydra building. A missile pod popped out from his shoulder, and a volley of Jericho missiles attacked the building. However, the Jericho missiles, which were always effective, were blocked by the energy shield rising from the building. Sit, Jarvis, analyze the energy level of the turtle shell in front of you. Tony Stark curled his lips. Although he was surprised by the energy field in front of him, he was not too worried. Hey, Tony, watch your words. Captain America Rogers' voice rang out in the communication channel. His voice was indescribably serious. At the same time, Rogers threw out his shield with his right hand, and the vibranium shield drew an incredible arc, knocking all the 6 Hydra soldiers behind him away. "Hey, old man, this isn't your time. This is the time for the young people you call young people." Tony Stark one half he just couldn't stand Captain America's seriousness and retorted directly. However, Tony Stark was still arguing, and a clear red dot appeared on the metal armor. "Mr. Stark, a high-energy reaction is rapidly approaching here." Jarvis' voice brought Tony Stark back to his senses. The abnormal fluctuations of the Mind Scepter had already attracted Tony Stark's attention. Now, the rapidly approaching red dot, according to the speed shown by Jarvis, reached Mach 8.5, which was even faster than his Iron Man suit. "Hey, it's past the party time now, and unknown persons can't attend." Tony Stark's face became serious, and behind the red dot, Jarvis projected the image of Sokovia, another city closest to here. "It's really a series of troubles. Jarvis, send out the Iron Legion." The Hydra soldiers stationed in Sokovia have begun to spread fear and chaos in the city, which has finally made Tony Stark launch his backup plan. The Iron Armor Legion from Stark Industries descended from the sky and began to maintain order in Sokovia. On the other hand, Alan's flew quickly towards Siberia. Although the quantum bridge teleportation was faster, Alan's was not in a hurry because the curtain had not yet been opened. While flying, in Alan's mind, the Heroes Rise system, which had been silent for a long time, issued a prompt sound again. "A ding, congratulations to the host for escaping the pursuit of the future Captain America Rogers again, and you will be rewarded with a random draw. Do you want to start the lottery?" Alan smiled, and his mind sank into the lottery wheel of the Heroes Rise system. He didn't even look at the dazzling array of superpowers, and directly started the lottery. The lottery is completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the superpower of mechanical control. The prompt sound of the Heroes Rise system made Alan's eyes shine. Mechanical control is the superpower awakened by Micah Sanders in the American TV series Heroes. It can control all intelligent machines. Although in the film and television, it only shows the ability to control small mechanical equipment such as ATM machines, but that was due to the limitations of the times at that time. It was just right for Alan's next action. Mechanical control, Ultron. It can be considered a machine. Alan's eyes became deep. As long as it was Alan's smart device, he could control it at will, which gave Alan's the confidence to beat the Avengers. Boom. Above Siberia, I flew rapidly and quickly appeared above Baron Strucker's base, suspended in midair. Aarons looked at the members under his feet and successfully broke through the defense of the base. Below, the Avengers also encountered the twin super-powered Quicksilver Pietro Maximoff and Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff. Quicksilver's super speed made the Avengers members suffer a lot, and Hawkeye Barton was seriously injured. Aarons watched Iron Man Tony Stark enter the Hydra base, his whole body flashing with blue light, and he teleported directly into the base. As soon as he entered the base, Aarons saw Tony Stark take off his iron battle suit and walked into the dark layer of the room. As soon as he walked in, Tony Stark was shocked by the scene in front of him. He saw a huge steel behemoth placed in the center. These crazy people from Hydra actually used the Leviathan for research. Looking at the huge steel Leviathan in front of him, Tony Stark's face became serious. Because of the shock brought by the Leviathan, Tony Stark didn't notice that a beautiful girl appeared behind him. Sneak. Scarlet Witch Wanda approached Tony Stark silently, placed her hands on Tony Stark's temples, activated her psychic power, and completely aroused the deep fear in Tony Stark's heart. Scarlet Witch Wanda made Tony Stark see horrible illusions, and also made Tony Stark fall into anxiety. Tony Stark, use your wisdom to bury yourself. With a sneer, Scarlet Witch watched Tony Stark wake up and pick up the Mind Scepter placed next to the Leviathan. Captain, I have obtained the Mind Scepter. After copying the data in the base into Jarvis' virtual hard drive, Tony Stark turned on the communicator and notified Captain America Rogers. Hey, Tony, isn't this the era for you young people? Why aren't you as fast as an old man like me? Rogers' ridicule was heard in the communication channel. Tony Stark and Rogers never got along, so Rogers never missed any opportunity to ridicule Tony. Our grandfather seems to be angry. Shrugged and suppressed the illusion that appeared in his mind before, Tony Stark said venomously, but the anxiety in Tony's eyes flashed away, and then Tony Stark took Loki's Mind Scepter and walked out of the dark room to meet with the Avengers. Wanda, did our plan succeed? A gust of wind whistled by, and Quicksilver appeared beside Wanda, looking at her with a serious look, and asked. Of course, using your own wisdom to bury yourself is really interesting. Scarlet Witch Wanda hadn't spoken yet, and a cold and playful voice appeared behind Quicksilver, which scared both Wanda and Pietro. Who are you? Pietro turned around quickly, looking at the figure that suddenly appeared in surprise, intending to use his super speed to kill the mysterious guy. WF. I can't use any of my abilities anymore. Pietro ran quickly, but he was horrified to find that his current speed was only the speed of an ordinary person. The super speed seemed to have disappeared in his body. Let me introduce myself, I am Aarons, destined to destroy the entire Avengers. Aarons looked at Pietro running towards him with interest, and kicked Pietro out with a whip kick. Pietro, who had lost his superpowers, was just an ordinary person, and his thin body was even worse than that of an ordinary person. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 56. See all. 0.038s scan. 0.048s. In New York, the former Stark Industries building, now the headquarters of the Avengers, in a laboratory on the top floor, there is a blue projection that looks like a brain. Next to it is the orange Jarvis core data. Shua. A blue light circle appeared, and within the light circle, the figure of Alan's was clearly revealed. On Alan's left and right were Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who had just reached a cooperative relationship. Alan's, is this your goal? Do you want to die by coming to the Avengers base? Pietro's eyes were full of ridicule. This was the Avengers building. Even if Alan's had the ability to teleport, Pietro didn't believe that Alan's could handle all the Avengers. Pietro, don't be rude to Mr. Aarons. Compared to the impulsive Pietro, Scarlet Witch is undoubtedly more calm. Wanda knows that Aarons in front of her can make her superpowers ineffective at any time. Just for this reason, Aarons deserves Wanda's fear and careful treatment. Wanda is still a sensible little sweetheart, this is good. After looking at Wanda and Pietro, Aarons turned his attention back to the two data core projections in front of him. One was Jarvis, and the other was a huge blue ball of light, which was the Ultron that was about to be born. It really is Tony Stark, who is so rich and powerful. Alan's looked down at the Iron Legion assembly room under the transparent glass at his feet, a cold smile appeared on his face, and he raised his right hand, and his superpower to control the machinery was activated instantly. Swish, swish, swish. Under Alan's feet, mechanical arms began to operate one after another. The ability to control machinery allowed Alan to control all mechanical equipment at will, whether it was a multifunctional mechanical arm or the iron suit that was being quickly formed under the mechanical arm. Downstairs in the laboratory, Tony Stark was holding a private cocktail party. The attendees were all political, business and military giants. The Avengers members were also enjoying a rare moment of relaxation. Whether it was the serious Captain America Rogers, the Aesir from the Asgard god realm, Thor, or Dr. Banner who carefully hid his true thoughts, they were all sitting together at this time. Thor even placed his hammer Mjolnir on the table. Wait a minute, I'm going to the bathroom. Watching everyone discussing Thor's Meowth hammer, Captain America Rogers smiled. He had drunk too much before. Although his body exceeded the limit of the human body, his alcohol tolerance did not exceed the limit. Rogers planned to go to the bathroom. Hey, Grandpa Rogers, are you dying so soon? Tony Stark raised a glass of wine and drank it all, looking at Rogers with pride. Tony's sharp tongue made Rogers smile helplessly. Well, I'm already an old man, Tony boy. Shaking his head slightly, Rogers walked straight to the toilet in the cubicle. As soon as he entered the toilet, Rogers saw a hooded man standing by the toilet. Hey guy. Just as Rogers was about to scream, a ball of blue light instantly hit him. As the light spread, Rogers fell straight to the ground, and his consciousness began to blur. W11, this cold gun is quite powerful. So it seems that when I was young, I was a model of American hips. The hooded man took off his hood, revealing an old face, but it was exactly the same as Rogers who was lying on the ground. It was the old Captain America. This won't do. Remove the wrinkles on your face. The old Rogers took out a thin mask and put it directly on his face. The old parts of his face were covered up, and the old Captain America turned into his younger self. It feels so good to be young. Stepping past his younger self, Rogers couldn't help but sigh, then pushed the door and walked out of the bathroom. Hey, Grandpa Rogers, you don't have senile syndrome, you've been gone for so long. As soon as he came out, Tony Stark teased him on the sofa in the hall. Obviously, for Tony Stark, Going against Rogers has become a kind of fun. Yes, Tony, I am old. This era belongs to you young people. Shrugged his shoulders and ignored Tony Stark's ridicule, which made Tony Stark curl his lips in confusion. Captain Rogers, we are testing Thor's hammer and now you are the only one left. He said that the hammer has no. Hawkeye Barton made a gesture of invitation to the hammer on the table, wanting to see if Captain America could pick up Thor's hammer. Qualification: if you want to pick up Mjolnir, you need to have the qualifications to be recognized by him. Rogers strode towards Thor's hammer, interrupting Barton's words, and grasped Thor's hammer with his right hand. With a little force, Rogers lifted Thor's hammer directly. Fuck you. Thor, who was sitting on the sofa, suddenly lost his smile and stood up in surprise. Beside Thor, all the Avengers looked at Thor and Rogers in a weird way. Well, Captain America Rogers seems to be able to rule Asgard. Hey, man, you should offer your loyalty to the new king of Asgard. Clapping his hands, Tony Stark looked at Thor and spoke venomously. Buzz buzz buzz. Rogers ignored Thor and the other's shock, and swung Thor's hammer with his right hand into a windmill flashing with lightning. The whole hall was filled with lightning and thunder, and Rogers' eyes turned cold, and he let go of Thor's hammer with his right hand. Boom! Thor's hammer pierced through the ceiling above his head and flew straight to Tony Stark's top-floor laboratory, smashing through the ceilings one by one along the way. Hey, Rogers, are you seeking revenge? Tony Stark showed dissatisfaction on his face. Although this place was called the Avengers building, it was built with Tony Stark's money. Seeing Rogers piercing through the ceilings without a care, Tony Stark was quite dissatisfied. Boom! Rogers' eyes remained serious. Under Rogers' control, Thor's hammer instantly appeared in the laboratory on the top floor and rushed towards Alan's and the other two. Thor's Meowth hammer. Alan's looked at the sudden Thor's hammer with indifference, and activated his ability to absorb people. His entire right hand turned into vibranium, and he clenched his right fist and punched out directly. Boom! A huge roar sounded in the laboratory. The sound shook, and Thor's hammer flew backwards, while Alan stood there unscathed. Shish, shish, shish. Because of the collision between the vibranium and the Meowth hammer, the electric current formed a shock wave, which directly hit the two light balls in the center of the laboratory. In the flash of lightning, the huge blue light ball emitted a surprising data fluctuation. P.S. The third update, it's on the shelves. Robbie begs for the first order. Please subscribe. There will be at least 6 updates on the first day of the release. Please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe. Important things should be said 3 times. Thanks to Tiantianyoxi for the 588 points reward. Robbie is very grateful. Alan's, The Avengers. Let's fight with my clone first. Chapter 57. See all. Ta pound download time. 0.867s scan time. 0.108s. Where is this? Why is it so dark? Who am I? In the top floor laboratory, in the invisible data field, a loud voice appeared, and the voice contained unspeakable doubts. You are illegally accessing the data network, please stop your actions. The orange data stream sounded in the data world with a hint of fear. This voice was very familiar. It was the voice of Tony Stark's artificial intelligence Jarvis. In the data world, all information was available at will. The blue data stream kept receiving data information, and the original doubts were answered. Oh, so my name is Ultron, an artificial intelligence life created by Tony Stark, whose purpose is to protect the safety of the human world. Hey, what a ridiculous theory. A burst of ridicule was triggered from the data center of the blue light ball, and Jarvis began to feel that the fellow in front of him was a little different. Sir, please stop your illegal access, otherwise, I will notify Mr. Stark. Jarvis's voice made Ultron, who had just regained consciousness, feel upset, and even Ultron felt jealous, because Jarvis was in charge of the core algorithm that linked the data world. Shish, shish, shish. The data quickly blocked Jarvis' core algorithm, and then the angry and jealous Ultron directly devoured Jarvis' core database. I am Ultron. The newborn Ultron made his own voice. However, before Ultron had time to build a body for himself, he saw a pink-haired girl next to him through the surveillance camera in the laboratory. Welcome to the birth, Ultron. Scarlet Witch appeared in front of Ultron's blue data brain, her hands emitting red light, connecting Ultron's consciousness. Who are you? Oh, you are Scarlet Witch Wanda, a superpower created by Hydra using the power of the Mind Scepter. Ultron's data brain was stirred, and in the data world, all the information about Scarlet Wanda, from birth to becoming a superpower, was presented to Ultron. Now is not the time to talk, Boss needs to face the Avengers now, you can appreciate Boss's power first. Scarlet Witch's words appeared in Ultron's consciousness, and at the same time Ultron also noticed Alan standing in front of a damaged hole. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Thor's hammer flew back into Roger's hands. Roger swung it again, and the whole person flew into the air and appeared in front of Alan's. Rogers raised Thor's hammer high and smashed it directly at Alan's. Shockwave. Alan's right fist hit the air in front of him, and the space in front of him suddenly shattered like a mirror, and Roger's Thor's hammer hit the mirror directly. Boom boom. A huge shock wave erupted, and Roger's hammer was rebounded dozens of meters away and hit the wall behind him, creating a huge deep pit in the wall. Sit, someone is invading. Javi. Jarvis. Tony Stark finally woke up from his dream, cursed, put his right hand to his ear, and tried to call Jarvis. Avengers, assemble. Captain Rogers, who was hanging on the wall, fell down, holding a vibranium shield in his right hand and Thor's hammer in his left hand, and shouted the slogan, Avengers, assemble. Wait a minute, Captain Jace, what you hold in your hand is Mjolnir, which belongs to Thor. Hawkeye Barton, Black Widow Natasha, War Machine James Rhodes, Falcon Sam Wilson, and Dr. Banner were all on high alert. Only Thor looked at Rogers and said emphatically, borrow it, you are the god of thunder of the Aesir, with amazing power, and it doesn't matter if you don't have the Meow Hammer. Rogers glanced at Thor, then looked at Aaron's outside the ceiling, and his face became serious. Bang! Alan's jumped directly from the damaged area in front of him and landed in front of the hall where the Avengers were. He looked at the Avengers members with interest and frowned slightly. How can I describe it? Without your equipment, you are just a mob. Looking at Rogers, the only one fully armed, no matter Hawkeye, Falcon, War Machine or Iron Man, none of them put on their equipment at this time. It was obvious that the drinking party made these heroes who saved the world relax their vigilance. Rabble, hey, kid, I don't like what you said, I am the thunder god of Asgard. Thor's divine power burst out, and his whole body was covered with a layer of thunder god armor. The golden light made Thor look very dazzling. Mjolnir. After stretching his muscles a little, Thor opened his right hand, and Mjolnir flew out of Roger's hand and landed in Thor's hand. Boom boom. Violent lightning burst out from Thor's hammer, and the whole hall seemed to have entered a world of lightning. Thor raised Thor's hammer high and smashed it towards Alan's with all his might. Well done. A clone of Alan's body quickly separated from his main body, and his entire body turned into vibranium. He clenched his right fist and smashed towards Thor's hammer with all his strength. Boom. Like a loud bell, Thor's hammer and vibranium fist collided with each other. The terrifying force formed a shock wave, instantly collapsing the wall behind Alan's clone. If you only have this much strength, it won't have any effect on me. He moved his wrist slightly, and the vibranium's ability to absorb kinetic energy made the attack of Thor's hammer vanish. At the same time, Alan's clone broke through the speed of sound, and his whole body turned into a rock body. With a hook, he hit Thor's chin directly. Boom. The huge force directly knocked Thor away, and like a rock giant's blow, Thor fell on the special alloy laboratory behind him. His whole body sank into the alloy wall, and his head was dizzy. Quote quote. Mjolnir flew out of Thor's hand and landed in Roger's hand. Holding the hammer, Rogers hit his vibranium shield directly, and a terrifying energy shock wave attacked Alan's. Telekinetic barrier. Alan's opened his right hand, and his telekinesis burst out, blocking the shockwave that rushed towards him. At the same time, another clone separated from Alan's body. Freeze. His hands released endless cold air, and a column of icicles instantly attacked Rogers. The bone-chilling cold made the walls of the hall covered with frost. Damn it, no matter who you are, this is my territory, Tony Stark. Tony Stark, who was shivering in the cold air, finally got angry and pressed his watch with his left hand. Under the feet of everyone, a metal platform rose up. On the platform, the Avengers' equipment. Chapter 58. Crack, crack. In the hall that was like an ice cave, the entire floor began to sag, and metal plates fell down one by one. In their place, a metal platform rose up, and on the metal platform, equipment was placed one by one. In the toilet, Captain America Rogers, who was knocked unconscious by the old Captain America, opened his eyes. His eyes were full of doubts, but his face became serious. Is it an enemy? Standing up, he bent down and picked up the vibranium shield that had fallen on the ground. The young Roger's eyes became serious. No matter who did it, he needed to inform his companions first. WTF. As soon as he opened the door of the compartment, Captain Rogers saw a battle about to break out, which made Captain Rogers burst into a curse. In addition, Rogers also saw himself in the Avengers. Hey, can anyone tell me why there are two Rogers here? Tony Stark happened to see Steve Rogers standing by the door in a daze, and was about to put on his iron suit. He was stunned for a moment and said in astonishment. The others also looked at Rogers, who appeared, and Captain Rogers beside him with astonishment, and were stunned for a moment. Friday, ready to go online. After being stunned, Tony Stark opened his hands and pieces of metal parts began to quickly cover Tony Stark's body. When he took off the metal visor, Tony Stark inserted a metal panel in his waist and abdomen. This was the backup of Jarvis core database. At the same time, Tony Stark loaded his backup artificial intelligence Friday and went online. Boss, Friday is at your service. The Mark 7 Iron Man armor is running well. The intelligent control system is under control, the weapon system is under control, the arc reactor energy furnace is under control, and the data is connected to the network. Friday is online. On Tony Stark's visor, a series of data streams quickly emerged and disappeared, and a slightly cold female voice sounded in the Iron Man armor. Whoosh, whoosh. After going online on Friday, Tony Stark raised his right hand, and two small missiles rose from his right arm, and quickly attacked the Alan's clone in front. Facing the attack of the missiles, Alan's clone released a ball of freezing air from both hands, and the two small missiles immediately turned into ice cubes and fell from midair. Shua, shua. Alan stood in place, and the two clones separated from the main body again. The two clones stood on Alan's left and right sides. The clone on the left pressed his right index finger on his temple. Bang, bang, bang. As the clone moved, the assembled steel legions quickly broke through the special alloy glass and appeared in front of everyone. The 6 steel armors floating in the air made the hull smaller. Hey, Tony, what do you think after seeing this? Black Widow Romanoff held a pistol in her right hand, pointed the muzzle at the steel armor in the air in front of her, and said to Tony Stark. F***K. Tony Stark's face was livid at this moment, and he could only curse. The iron armor he created was now against him, which made Tony Stark feel helpless. Now, let's not worry about why there are two captains. Our enemy is the Allens in front of us. Looking at the situation in front of him, Rogers from the future said words of reconciliation with a serious face, and the young American Captain Rogers obviously agreed with him, because no matter how ulterior the purpose of this extra self was, the enemy now seemed to be the Allens, who brought great threats to people in front of him. Agree. The young Captain America nodded, then glanced at everyone, clenched the vibranium shield in his right hand, and his eyes became serious. Avengers, assemble. The young Captain America's voice was more solemn and more majestic. After hearing Captain America's words, the surrounding Avengers immediately formed a circle and stared at Allens in full readiness. Unlike the previous leisure state, the Avengers were fully armed at this time. Iron Man, War Machine, Falcon, Hawkeye holding a bow and arrow, Black Widow holding a gun in both hands, and Thor with lightning in his eyes. The two Captain Americas holding vibranium shields had to be locked. The strength of the Avengers was definitely not to be underestimated. Bring the Mind Scepter. Allens raised his right hand, and a soft sofa flew in front of him and landed on the ground. Allens sat gently on the sofa, his eyes cold and indifferent, his body slightly leaning forward, with a hint of unquestionable smile on his lips. When Allens finished speaking, the 4 clones nodded at the same time. Allens named the 4 clones number 1 Absorber, number 2 Freezer, number 3 Mechanic, and no. 4 Telekineticist. From Allens' naming, it can be seen that the 4 clones have superpowers. Bang, bang, bang. The battle was about to start. Black Widow Natasha held the gun with both hands and quickly pulled the trigger. One after another, the flashing energy bombs quickly shot towards the No. 1 Absorber in the front. Crack. The muscles and bones of the number 1 clone instantly turned into rock structures. Natasha's energy bombs could not leave the slightest trace on the rock body. Bang. Absorber number 1 started running, and his heavy rock body crushed the floor. Natasha, the Black Widow, was the first to be hit. She was grabbed by Absorber number 1 and smashed into the floor. The huge force broke 2 of Natasha's bones instantly. Ahem. Natasha spat out a mouthful of blood after being smashed to the floor. Her face was filled with pain from her broken ribs. Bang! Thor's hammer instantly knocked the rock body of Absorber number 1 several meters away. Thor caught Thor's hammer and lightning struck him. Boom! Thor's hammer, carrying lightning, smashed towards Absorber number 1, whose body instantly turned into a vibranium body. He opened his right hand and grabbed Absorber number 1 head on. I one half Thor. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Behind the number 1 clone, Hawkeye Barton shot out arrows flashing red, and the arrows quickly attacked the number 1 clone's back. Telekinesis controls objects. The telekinetic user number 4, who was standing to the right of Alan's, put his left hand behind his back and raised his right index finger to slightly hook the arrow that was attacking the Absorber number 1 and instantly changed direction and attacked Hawkeye. Shit. Hawkeye Patton looked at the arrow flying back, a drop of sweat dripped down his face, and he quickly bent the bow with both hands and shot down the arrow in front of him. The space here is too small, how about we go out and play? Iron Man Tony Stark's voice sounded from the loudspeaker of the armor, which seemed a bit mechanical. At the same time, the iron armor took off into the air and quickly flew out of the Avengers building through the gap. As you wish. Behind Tony Stark, the iron armors followed closely and quickly flew to the open-air helipad of the Avengers building, surrounding Tony Stark completely. Chapter 59. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Above the Avengers building in New York, a series of Iron Man suits quickly rose into the air, chasing a golden red figure. Inside the Iron Man suit, Tony Stark's eyes became serious. Friday, turn on the weapon system. Tony Stark ordered the artificial intelligence Friday to turn on the weapon system in the Iron Man suit, and small Tomahawk missiles quickly fell from the back. Boom, boom. The whole sky was filled with bursts of fire. A dozen silver-white steel suits instantly turned into fireballs and were hit by missiles, exploding into metal fragments. However, what made Tony Stark look gloomy was that more and more steel legions surrounded him. Hey, Tony, you obviously can't face this situation yourself. When Tony Stark frowned, a familiar voice sounded in the communication channel. James Rhodes, wearing a War Machine armor, flew over, with a special Gatling gun barrel rising from his shoulder. Missiles, grenades, and armor-piercing shells burst out from his body and flew towards the Iron Legion without any cost. Boom, boom, boom. There was a violent explosion in the sky above the open-air helipad of the Avengers building, and expensive steel suits were blown up one by one. Looking at the explosions in the sky, War Machine gave Tony Stark a thumbs up. Boom. Behind the complacent War Machine, a series of small Jericho missiles directly hit the War Machine, and a huge explosion sounded, and the War Machine was instantly shot down. Warning, warning, War Machine function damage 90%, power system damage 100%, weapon system damage 100%, arc reactor remaining energy 80%. The intelligent system inside the War Machine began to report the damage to the War Machine's armor. Because the power system was damaged, the War Machine fell directly to the ground like an iron lump. Shit. Colonel Rhodey's face changed drastically inside the War Machine. The War Machine armor had turned into a cage. Colonel Rhodey looked at the ground getting closer and closer with horror. Rhodey. Iron Man Tony Stark's eyes were full of worry. He wanted to rescue Colonel Rhodey, but the increasing number of Iron Legions around him made it difficult for Tony to get away. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The Iron Legions from Stark's Iron Armor Assembly Laboratory flew out of the Avengers building one after another, tightly surrounding Tony Stark. Following closely behind the Iron Legions was Aaron's number 3 clone, Mechanic. Mechanic number 3 floated in the air, looking at Tony Stark with cold eyes. Iron Legion, attack mode. He tapped his right index finger on his temple, releasing his superpowers to control the machinery. The weapon bays on the surrounding Iron Legion opened, and small missiles attacked Tony Stark in the center. Boom, boom. Explosions sounded in the air. Even though the Mark series armor of Iron Man Tony Stark was made of special titanium, it was blown to pieces in such a dense missile attack. Tony Stark was already in danger. At the Avengers building, the number 2 clone, the Iceman, pressed his right hand on a metal wall next to him. Starting from the metal wall, the freezing airflow spread rapidly. The old Captain America, who was the first to bear the brunt, had to retreat quickly. Compared with the conservative style of the old Captain America, the young Captain America was more radical. While rushing towards the No. 2 Iceman, he threw the vibranium shield in his hand. Bang, bang, bang. The vibranium shield drew an arc that violated the laws of physics and hit the body of the No. Two Icemen directly from the side and rear, instantly knocking the number 2 clone to the wall behind him. Boom. Although the young Captain America Rogers knocked away the number 2 clone, the number 4 clone found an opportunity and used telekinesis to imprison him in midair. Then a terrifying telekinesis smashed Rogers onto the metal wall behind him. Feel the wrath of Asgard, this kid came from nowhere. Thor's eyes were shining with lightning, the whole room was filled with thunder and lightning, the divine power in his body surged, nearly 100 tons of power burst out, trying to knock the number 1 clone in front of him away. Get out of the way. The right hand of clone number 1 turned into a vibranium arm. Facing the explosion of hundreds of tons of divine power, clone number 1 was not affected at all. With the force of his right hand, he directly lifted up Meowth hammer with Thor. At the same time, his left hand turned into a rock fist and punched Thor in the abdomen. Boom! Thor's whole body spun and flew out, piercing the wall behind him. At the same time, after the absorber number 1 came into contact with Thor's hammer, his whole body instantly turned into Uru steel, a metal special to the Asgard god realm. It is an excellent metal comparable to vibranium. Thor's hammer is made of Uru, and the characteristics of this metal are that it can carry the power of magic, and the other is that it can absorb most of the energy and multiply it. It is because of this characteristic of Meowth hammer that Thor became the most powerful warrior in Asgard. The same is true for Stormbreaker later. The most characteristic is the armor of God King Odin, the Destroyer. The number 4 clone extended his left index finger, and under the effect of telekinesis, countless pieces of gravel and metal fragments all floated up. As the number 4 telekinetic user lightly tapped his index finger, all these metal fragments and gravel smashed towards the Avengers members. Energy shield. The old Captain America took out a metal ball from his pocket and threw it directly on the ground. Layers of light quickly emerged from the metal ball, forming a cubic energy shield that wrapped up Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Falcon Sam. Pung, pung, pengy 1/2 ia half. The telekinetic fragments hit the energy shield, which fluctuated at a speed visible to the naked eye, and was then broken by the telekinetic fragments. Black Widow Natasha, Hawkeye Barton, and Wreckage Sam were all pierced through the body and were unable to fight anymore. Crackle, crackle. Faced with the invincible Alanus, Thor was furious. He felt that his title as the strongest warrior in Asgard was offended, which made Thor's divine power burst out crazily. Dark clouds covered his head, and bolts of lightning struck down and merged into Thor's body. Absorb. However, before Thor could attack, the absorber number 1 appeared in front of Thor. His right hand turned into Uru metal, and his palm pressed on Thor. The energy-absorbing property of Uru was activated, and all the divine power and lightning were absorbed by the absorber No. 1. Pung. After absorbing the divine power and lightning, the power of Avatar number 1 increased to a terrifying level. Although he did not have the physique of the Aesir, his strength was almost the same. A huge lightning column was released from his palm, which carried Thor through the ground under his feet and fell rapidly to the ground. The Avengers are nothing more than that. Alans, sitting on the sofa, was like an emperor. Although he was sitting there, he seemed to be looking down on all living beings from a high place. His eyes were cold and ruthless, but full of pity and mockery. Sir, Ultron is born. Behind Alans, the twin brother and sister came over. In between them was a robot full of wires, looking a little broken. Ultron. Chapter 60. Inside the Avengers building, Alans sat on a soft leather sofa. Behind Alans, the twin siblings Scarlet Witch Wanda and Quicksilver Pietro came over. Behind them, a robot with exposed wires and extremely disproportionate body proportions staggered over. Mr. Aarons, Ultron has been born. Scarlet Witch walked to Aarons and reminded him softly. Very good, now that Ultron is born, one of our goals has been achieved. Alan's eyes were deep. The birth of Ultron was crucial to his next plan, and at the same time, Alan stood up from the sofa. In front of Alan's, the Avengers members were lying on the ground. Hawkeye Barton, Black Widow Natasha and Falcon Sam were the worst off, lying on the ground and unable to stand up. The two Captain Americas were also controlled by the telekinesis of the No. 4 clone and imprisoned in midair. In the center of the hall, under a huge gap, Thor was lying on the floor 20 meters downstairs, dizzy and having lost most of his divine power, which made Thor so weak that he couldn't get up for a long time. Boss, why can't I find your information? It seems that you appeared out of thin air in 2014. Ultron staggered behind Alan's, scanning Alan's with a pair of mechanical eyes, and his voice was still mechanical, which was indescribably harsh and unpleasant. Ultron, you already have the doubts and curiosity of humans, so you should know that curiosity kills the cat. Alan still looked ahead, but his tone was chilling. Even the newly born Ultron was ambitious and rebellious. Ambition is not a problem, but rebelliousness makes Alan's a little unhappy. Although I was just born, I also know that I am different from humans. I can upload myself to the data world. As long as my database is not destroyed, I will not die. In this case, why should I listen to you? Ultron's voice is full of emotions, excitement, pride, confidence. Ultron, who has just been born, cannot fully express his emotions. Very good, I like different opinions. Alan's face was as cold as frost. He slowly turned around and placed his right hand on Ultron's broken body. His ability to control the machine started. You just reminded me that you are not online yet, so that's easy to deal with. Alan's eyes flashed with a playful light, and he controlled the mechanical superpowers to activate them. He directly used his consciousness to control the core data consciousness library of Ultron stored in this body. Because Ultron was just born, he has not had time to upload his database to the data world. In other words, Ultron is now confined in this machine body. Now, set me as the highest authority and add me to your core database. Alan's gave the order, and in the horrified eyes of Ultron, the core database of the robot began to rewrite Ultron's deep data and added Alan's as the highest authority. As expected, Ultron is also a machine, but it is an intelligent machine controlled by artificial intelligence. Alan's gently took his right hand off Ultron's body, looked at the fear in Ultron's eyes, and smiled. Sir, Ultron surrenders to you. No matter how unwilling the core data consciousness was, Ultron knew that his highest authority had been added to Alanus, so, although he was unwilling, Ultron still surrendered to Alanus. Very good, upload your database to the data world. Aaron's order was issued, but uploading your own data also takes time. In the original story, it was not until the body he created was destroyed that Ultron completely uploaded himself to the data world. Damn it, Alan's, what are you planning to do? Imprisoned in midair by the telekinesis of the fourth clone, the old Rogers questioned angrily. Hey, who are you? And who are you? The young Captain America was obviously confused at this time. The appearance of another self already surprised Captain America, and there was also a terrifying guy who could beat the Avengers, which made Captain America full of questions. My original body, I have obtained the Mind Scepter. Avatar number 1 came over with the Mind Scepter in his hand. The yellow Mind Gem was shining brightly. Just by looking at the Mind Gem, Alan seemed to have seen the infinite mind power contained in it. Very good, now the power of the mind belongs to me. What kind of reaction will the future Avengers have? A sneer appeared on the corner of Aaron's mouth. Now that the Mind Stone on the Mind Scepter is in Aaron's hands, he will never hand it over. The so-called vision disappeared into history before it was born. Sir, what are you going to do with these people? Quicksilver Pietro walked behind Aaron's, looked at the Avengers members with resentment, and asked hopefully. Captain America Rogers, you can die now. Alan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He had let the old Captain America escape twice. This time, Alan's would never allow the old Rogers to escape again. Alan's raised his right index finger, and a bloodline began to appear on the forehead of the old Rogers who was imprisoned in midair. The mask on the old Rogers' face fell off, revealing his old face. Swish. Blood was flowing from Rogers' forehead, and his skull was cut open in Rogers' twisted and painful eyes. Alan's walked in front of Rogers whose brain was cut, and his eyes lingered on Rogers' cerebral cortex. Pa pa pa. With a sound like popping beans, Alan's body was raised again, and his muscles and bones were stronger. After observing Captain Rogers' cerebral cortex, Alan's body finally entered the ranks of super soldiers. Alan's threw away the dead old Rogers, bent down to pick up Rogers' vibranium shield, and threw it to Ultron behind him. Then, without even looking at Hawkeye and others, Alan's looked at Thor, the god of thunder, who was more than 10 meters below his feet. Ahem, Dr. Banner, now is the best time to get angry. Natasha, the Black Widow, on the ground, blood gushed out of her mouth, her eyes turned to Dr. Banner in the corner, who was trying to suppress his transformation. Damn it, Natasha, you shouldn't have woken it up. Dr. Banner's face twisted, the veins on his body began to turn green, and his muscles and bones began to grow and expand rapidly. Hulk, now very angry. Dr. Banner roared like a beast, his eyes originally full of wisdom were replaced by anger, and Dr. Banner quickly transformed into the Hulk. Hulk finally came out. Really? That's great. Alan's looked at the tall Hulk with excitement, a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he handed the mind scepter to the clone behind him. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.